So we're gonna go live on YouTube. Give me 1 second. 1 minute. Okay, we are live, and Mr. Supervisor, you can start the meeting whenever you'd like.
Thank you, Jacob. Good evening, everybody. I would like to call the Commerce Township regular board meeting for Tuesday, February 9th. I'd like to call it to order. If we could all please start off with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and
to
to
the
the
republic
republic
for which
for
it
which it
stands,
stands,
one nation, under God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all. So I'd like to make some introductions. So tonight we have our Township Treasurer, Molly Phillips, our Township Clerk, Melissa Creech, our Township Trustees, Vanessa Magner, Bob Burkheiser, Rick Sobel, and Mr. George Weber. We have our directors with us as well. We have Jay James, our Director of Building and Kurt Industries. We have Ben Sabrowski, our Director of IT, Emily England, our Director of Parks and Rec. We have Jim Dundas, our Fire Chief, Allison Lombard, Director of the Library, Jason Mayer, from engineer from Diffel Webbers, Dave Campbell, Director of Planning, Mark Shinger, our Director of Maintenance, and we have our Dave Campbell, Director of Planning, and of course, have to have Phil Atkinson and Hans Renthup, our Township Attorneys, for these meetings. So first, I would like to get the approval minutes from the regular January 12th, 2021 regular Township Board meeting.
Move approval of both January 12th and January 26th minutes.
Motion Sobel.
Support.
Discussion. Roll call vote, please.
Who was the support?
Burkheiser.
Sobel,
Aye.
Burkheiser,
Aye.
Creech, aye. Phillips,
Yes.
Weber,
Aye.
Magner,
Aye.
Gray.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Motion carried. As well as we need to get approval of minutes for the January 26th quarterly Township Board meeting. Could we get?
It was both.
We did both.
Oh, we did both? I apologize. Okay. So tonight we have a presentation. First, we're going to start off with George Weber. George is going to read a resolution from Commerce Township for Mark Stacy, our past downtown development director. Mark's wife, both Teresa and then his daughter Morgan, are watching on YouTube, I believe. I just like to make my input before George says anything. Is I was fortunate enough to know Mark for 2 months before he passed, and what a great guy. He touched everybody's heart here at the township and everybody in other areas as well too, I'm sure. So George, if you want to read the resolution.
Thanks, Larry. The Charter Township of Commerce Resolution 2021-01, commending Mark Stacy for service to the community. Whereas Mark Stacy was a resident in the Charter Township of Commerce, Oakland County, Michigan, for more than 20 years. And whereas Mark Stacy was appointed to the Downtown Development Authority Board, Commerce Township, Oakland County, Michigan, on the 4th day of January 2011. And whereas Mark Stacy was hired as the full-time director of the Downtown Development Authority, Commerce Township, Oakland County, Michigan, on the 26th day of May, 2015. And whereas Mark Stacy's service and devotion to the township and its Downtown Development Authority was proven to be an enormous benefit to the township, its business partners, and its residents in numerous ways, all of which contributed to Commerce Township having the finest downtown development authority in the area. And whereas Mark Stacy is recognized with many accolades from colleagues and staff for offering historical context, business impact, and attention to the potential impacts from development and policy decisions. And whereas he brought consistency, reliability, dedication in the face of many changes over the last 10 years, benefiting Commerce Township and the thousands of residents and business associates he has served in our community. And now, therefore, be it resolved by the Board of Trustees of the Charter Township of Commerce, County of Oakland, State of Michigan as follows. Section 1, that the Commerce Township Board of Trustees proclaims the appreciation of all Commerce residents for Mark Stacy's meritorious service to the community. Section 2, that the Commerce Township Board of Trustees thanks Mark Stacy for maintaining the Downtown Development Authority's long-standing commitment to quality services towards maintaining the vitality and prosperity of all Commerce Township residents and business partners. And Section 3, that this resolution signed by the members of the Charter Township of Commerce Board of Trustees be presented to the family of Mark Stacy as a token of deep appreciation. This resolution passed and adopted by the Charter Township Commerce Board of Trustees on this 9th day of February, 2021.
Thank you, George.
I think we need a support.
Can I get a support?
Support.
Burkheiser? Any discussion?
Only discussion, I'll say that I will ask Clerk Creech if she could print this off and have it prepared, and that each of the members of the Board of Trustees stop by the township to sign this so we can have it to present to the family.
Good job,
Okay.
George.
Thanks, George.
Any other discussion? Okay, roll call vote.
Weber,
Aye.
Burkheiser,
Aye.
Phillips,
Aye.
Creech, aye, Magner,
Aye.
Soval,
Aye.
Gray.
Aye. Thank you, George. Okay, next presentation is going to be Kevin Donnelly from Plant Moran. Kevin is going to give us an update on Fire Station 3. We invited him here tonight, and we probably will have him come every couple of months just to kind of give us an update on where we're at with the building of Fire Station 3. So Jacob, if you can make sure Kevin Donnelly can speak.
Larry, if I could jump in for a second, if you'd indulge me. I just talked to Kevin and he was having some technical difficulties hearing the meeting. But before Kevin jumps on, I would just like to say that the fire station is progressing and that we continue to have regular meetings with the team. We have a very good relationship with the neighbor to the south. They've had no complaints and have been very cooperative in the process. I would also like to invite any of the board members, if they want to come out to the site and see it in person. You might want to wait till it's a little warmer, but I would be happy to show you the site. The footings are in place. They've started to build some of the walls, and so you can start to get a feel for the size of the building and the layout. And with that, I'm not sure if we do have Kevin online or not.
He's currently connecting to audio right now,
Okay.
so it might take a minute.
I'd be happy to answer any questions before Kevin jumps on regarding the fire station.
Chief, how are things going with the crew that's being housed in Walled Lake?
Very well. Yes, we have always had a good relationship with our neighbors and our brothers in Walled Lake. We have an automatic aid agreement, as you're aware. They come to our fires, we go to theirs. The guys that are housed there have maintained a fairly good relationship with those guys. There have been no major issues or conflicts that I'm aware of.
That's all the filler time I can give you.
Well, I tried.
All right, 1 second. Just connected.
Chief, are all our trucks back in service running?
They are.
Oh, lost him again. I think he's gonna try to reconnect with us. Let's see.
His name's appearing, but
Kevin, can you hear us?
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Hello. All right. That was nerve-wracking. I couldn't hear anybody up until now. I had to call in. Everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes. we can hear you.
Perfect. So I'm going to share my screen if I could. All right. Everybody see that?
No,
Not yet.
Yeah? Okay.
it's coming.
How
There
about
we
now?
There we
go.
go.
See that? Okay. All right. So I think the last time we had been in front of the board was sometime in November. And at that point in time, we were just getting started with construction. So we had given a verbal update at that point in time, and we had told the board that we'd like to get back in front of you after a few months with what we called a dashboard report. So I hope everyone's had a brief opportunity to review this, but basically what this report is a 2-page summary of all the critical issues on the job or on the project. So now that we're under construction the last few months, this will be what we're calling our first dashboard. And we'd like to bring these back in front of the board every couple months throughout the course of, throughout the course of construction. So the first section here, and I'll go through it just to give the team some highlights from this past month, but the section up to the top left will basically highlight all the critical activities that have occurred during that time frame or the couple months since we've been in front of the board. Some updates from my end and our end. Procuring all the permits have been secured. The construction companies, the demo obviously is complete, but the general contractor is mobilized since this past fall and they've been on site. Unknown environmental is complete. And when I say environmental, we obviously had some work that we needed to do in the building before demolition occurred. And we had what we suspected was a asbestos-lined water main, which we abated. So all known asbestos work is complete. Utilities on site are in progress. I don't know if anyone's had an opportunity to go by the site, but the building is starting to take shape and it's going vertical. Site utilities and site work this fall is pretty much wrapped up and it'll commence here probably in late March, but we were able to get all the work we needed to done this fall. Building foundations are complete, and the walls that are going up, the masonry walls, if you've driven by, are going to be ongoing probably for the next several weeks. Structural steel is going to be arriving on site here towards the end of this month. So as the walls are erected, we're going to be setting the structural steel and the building will start to take shape. We continue, behind the scenes to procure materials. One of the things that we're trying to get ahead of, and one of the impacts that we saw late last year was some COVID delays on material procurement. So this team has been doing their best to be proactive in ordering everything that we can at the time, whether it be, storage offsite or any critical materials we're trying to order early so we don't have any of those impacts. And many of the team members that are on this call continue to meet on a bi-weekly basis. We have our project committee that meets every 2 weeks, and we're conducting what we call OEC meetings, which is owner, architect, and contractor meetings. Just to have the team on, an hour call every couple of weeks and go through any critical issues on the project. Some of the critical items that we have upcoming that we're continuing to track as a team that'll need to be done over the next several months. We've been working with DTE and Hans in regards to any easements that we need, but we're working on the permanent service to the building, along with other utilities such as consumers, cable phone, DTE, or Comcast, things of that nature. Security scope and design, I'm working with Chief on those items. For the building security, the cameras, the card access, those things are usually completed late in the project. And then this spring, as we start to, see the building take shape, we're going to have to start thinking about ordering what we call FF&E fixtures, furnishings, and equipment for the building. So Chief and I have been keeping that on the radar for sometime in April or May to start picking that stuff out and getting it ordered. Then completion of any CM or architect amendments, which we continue to, track all the contract compliance behind the scenes, so that'll be ongoing. And then obviously, in front of everyone's mind is COVID, but, fortunately for our project, In the construction as a whole, we're not seeing too many delays. The construction industry is pretty adaptive to the COVID restrictions. We haven't seen any real delays out there. And if for some odd reason we were to spike this summer and construction was to be impacted, our project would be deemed essential and be able to keep moving along. So I don't think we're going to have any COVID impacts per se. Look at the right-hand side, which is basically the spreadsheet that we put together. We try to capture enough detail here to be informative, but what we're looking at is our construction budget update for the month. The top 3 lines are basically all of the construction related, either contracts or related dollar values. If you recall, we hired a couple contractors to execute work out on site, and we have Blue Star and the Daily Company below. Those are their contract values, and we worked as a team post-bid to bring the project in budget by entertaining some value engineering items that this team worked for. Below that are basically what we call project soft costs or contingency. And these are all the costs that we have to execute on the owner side and all the activities that we have to execute on the owner side. So really not a lot to go over and call it B1 through B10. But what I like to point out is B11 is basically what we call our contingency funds and what we have remaining in the project. I can tell this group that from my experience, the point in time where you have the highest risk on a project, dollar-wise, is coming out of the ground. And even before that is when you bid the project out. So where we're at today, now that the building's getting vertical, we have all the players on board, all the contracts are locked in, and we're on the way in construction. I feel pretty good about where we are because, we're out of the ground. A lot of the unknowns are behind us, and pretty much everything moving forward should be more of a predictable path. So having 3.5% contingency at this point, and I think everybody understood the budget was tight, but I feel pretty good about where things are right now on the dollar side of things. So short of any unknowns and changes on our side, which I know we won't do, or we'll try to minimize, I feel pretty good about where we're at with the budget. Before I move on, I suppose, are there any other questions? I have some more information to share on the next page, some highlight photos, but are there any questions thus far? All right, great. So again, trying to keep these reports high level but informative. There's critical milestone dates that you're seeing right now. Obviously, we mobilized just before the holidays. Foundations, as I mentioned, are complete, and that's a big milestone too because we're dealing with some pretty cold temperatures right now, and we were able to get the footings in the ground before the frost really set in. So having those complete is a plus.
Hey, Kevin.
Masonry, yes.
So, it's Burkheiser. On at least on the copy we got that was, I'll say in color, you have a lot of things marked green, and then there's a few things on there that are yellow. So would you mind hitting
version, didn't I?
Oh, okay. So it was B7 and B14 were quote minor concerns. My question had more to do with. So are we still at minor concerns, or are we good?
No, I just wanted to note that there really isn't any concerns other than there's a few items to note with the architectural engineering. Part of the contract, as we reconcile the value of the work, was to amend their contract, which we've done. And I was just noting to the team that it really should be green because there isn't any concerns moving forward. Everything's been captured in the budget. But I wanted to note that. And then B14 was basically a cost item that we're working through, trying to get a little more detail so we can review it. So it probably should be both green. No real issues there, Bob.
Okay.
So Kevin, you might want to move. We're still seeing the first slide. If you've moved on to the second slide, it's not showing yet.
All right, my bad. Let me get rid of this slideshow. All right. Can you see it now? Hold on. My apologies. I love technology. All right, can you see it now?
Yes.
Perfect. All right. I will start over. Apologies. So this next sheet here, we're just showing some milestone dates as far as the schedule is related. The next critical milestone that we're going to be working towards is obviously the structural steel. The masonry perimeter walls will be complete the end of this month, then interior masonry will continue to June. But once we receive the steel on site at the end of this month, that'll be what we feel is it'll be putting a challenge behind us, because steel in the market right now is somewhat volatile as far as procurement goes, but we've been able to secure our steel and we verified that. And then we'll be looking at building enclosure towards the end of May. That's when all the windows are on, the roof is on, the building's in the dry. Basically from that point forward, and to the right-hand side, we'll be working for the next several months on the interiors of the building, working toward completion and CFO, where we can occupy the building towards the end of September, first part of October. Some of the critical items that you'll see ongoing on the next several months, construction items you'll see ongoing. Obviously, masonry will continue, as I mentioned. Underground mechanical and electrical will be ongoing. We're going to start of structural steel here in February. In March, we'll see all the walls up and the brick start to be applied for the veneer of the building. Like these trusses, these are metal trusses will be going on the building to accept the roof, but those will be going up in March. And then exterior metal stud walls as well will be going up in March. In April, as I mentioned, the masonry will continue, roof decking and insulation, and then we'll be putting the roofing on in April and wrapping up in May. Just some progress photos. If you haven't been able to go on the site, and some of these are already outdated. You can see we don't have any snow on the ground, but this is from probably 2 or 3 weeks ago. Just some photos, some site photos from the site demolition, the grading, some of the site utility electrical work that we needed to do, some examples of the foundations, and obviously top right-hand corner there, some of the masonry work I've been referring to. So I feel that we're in very good shape where we're at right now. Good about where we're at with our team and the progress thus far, and with the winter slowly becoming something in the rearview mirror and better weather coming, I think things will continue to progress well on site. I hope this dashboard is informative. I'd like to use this format every couple months. So if there's any other questions right now, I'd be happy to answer them.
Look, any questions for Kevin?
And I apologize for the few technical issues from my end at the beginning.
Not a problem. Appreciate you being able to make it. Okay, well,
Thank
if anybody has any questions for Kevin, you're free to go enjoy your evening. Thank you for your time tonight.
Everybody have a great night.
Take care now.
Bye, everybody.
Okay, can I get approval of the agenda?
Move approval of the agenda.
Or
Whoops. Support?
Support.
Magner? Discussion? Roll call vote?
Phillips,
Aye.
Magner,
Aye.
Creech, aye. Phillips, or I'm sorry, Weber,
Aye.
Burkheiser,
He's on mute.
Bob.
Aye.
Sobel,
Sorry.
aye.
Gray.
Aye. Okay, great. Okay, next, we're going to ask for public comments. This is a time for the public to address the township board. You will have up to 2 minutes to address the township board. We will hear your comments. It will not be a back and forth discussion. When you are able to speak, we would like to have you state your name and your address for the record. Jacob, if you could see if anybody would like to address the board tonight under public comments.
Yes, Mr. Supervisor. So again, anyone from the public, it is *9 to raise your hand to let the board know you'd like to speak. And then once you're selected, it'd be *6 to unmute. So now is the time to raise your hand if you'd like to speak. And we do have one caller with 7263. I'm going to unmute you now. It is *6 to unmute.
Hi, my name is Anthony Joseph Deptula. My address is 2336 Gary Avenue in Brighton, Michigan. I spoke with the fire chief today, Jim Dundas, about my son's tragic accident on January 24th on Wolverine Lake. He was snowmobiling and he fell through the ice and he perished. And I have been obviously distraught. And I want to tell thanks to the entire people from Commerce Township to have a beautiful, unbelievable first responders. And I want to promote ice awareness. Ice is water awareness. I think the global warming and the ice quality is not like it should be. And I believe that we're all out there with the technology at our fingertips. There is safety devices that we could all be wearing to make the first responders' job a little easier on them. My son made a bad decision going out on a lake that he was unfamiliar with. I was informed there was open water the day before, and regardless of any awareness or signs, you know, if he was wearing a life vest, inflatable, or a bodysuit, or a jacket that inflates, and all the ice fishermen out there, and I am an avid sports enthusiast, just like my son. I'm so proud of him. He made a bad decision, but if he had a piece of equipment that could help save his life, why are we entitled to wear a seatbelt in a car and a life vest on the water, but when it comes to the ice, there's no protocol? And I believe if we just promote public awareness, we can start. And I've already started this 2 weeks ago when my son had perished. And I have found all kinds of equipment out there. And I've got a meeting with Jim Dundas this Friday at 2 p.m. and I'm going to be there. Oh, yeah. I want him to be informed on what I want to do. And I want to take this awareness in the right direction. And I need to start with the first responders that were there for my son, because these people are terrific and it's amazing. And this equipment is out there that we could be wearing to help our community. We are part of our community. And I thank you for listening to me. And I have absolutely no idea what I'm doing, but I know that I'm on the right track because the doctors, the nurses, the first responders, the police officers, John Jacobs, detective in Oakland County Police Department, he told me to call and talk to Jim and talk to the people so that we can heal over this tragic experience and we can prevent it from ever allowing another Commerce Township or Oakland County or Michigan resident or anybody in the entire world. I can't believe this equipment was already available, and we get in this equipment and the knowledge to the grandmothers and the mothers out there, and there'll be nobody left on the ice without protection. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you so much, and we really sorry to hear about your loss.
Thank you very much for listening to me. I appreciate having you.
Jacob, anybody else out there?
I'm just going to say again real quick, *9 to raise your hand if you'd like to speak. It's not looking like it's. If you guys would like to move forward, Mr. Supervisor, you're more than welcome to.
Thank you. We will close the public comments. Item 3, public hearings. So today we're going to be discussing the community development block grant application that comes to the township every year. Emily England, our Director of Parks and Recs, will overview the application that we'll be discussing.
So the CDBG application for our 2021 money is, they're estimating we're going to get $62,495. 30% of that can be used for public services. So we are going to turn in an application for $4,000 going to Haven, which is services for victims of domestic violence, dating violence, or sexual assault and stalking. $4,000 for youth services, and $10,748.50 for senior services, which would be our Meals on Wheels program. The remaining $43,749.50 will be going to removal of architectural barriers, which will put in the poured in place surfacing at the newly relocated play equipment in Dodge Park.
Great, thank you, Emily. At this time.
So Emily.
Yeah.
Well, one, I guess a question, we could do it later, but how does this relate money-wise to what we get each year? Is it been roughly the same? Is it up? Is it down?
It's down from the 2019 money, but they're thinking it's going to be the same as what we got in this year, 2020, or last year, sorry.
Okay.
So I mean, we typically average between 60 and 70,000, and it can fluctuate.
And this was 52-ish. Okay.
62.
62. Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to open this up to public hearing. If anybody in the public would like to make a comment on this topic.
Can I just ask a question real quick of Emily?
Hey, Molly, since I opened it already, can we discuss it?
I'll ask it when they're done.
Okay, thank you.
We have no one in the public raising their hand right now, so I don't believe if anyone wanting to share.
Okay, so at this time, I'm going to close the public hearing. Can I get a motion?
So I'll make a motion to accept the resolution approving the 2021 Community Development Block Grant application.
Support.
Was that Magner? Phillips? Okay, discussion?
I have just one question. When we get to the youth services, and I know we have some discussion on that, but where, Emily, where does that generally go? And do we want to make any changes this year versus our historical practice?
No, it goes to Lakes Area Youth Assistance, and I actually had a meeting with them today because they do have some funds left over from previous years. Obviously, last year they couldn't spend, and we didn't allocate them money with our 2020 money. So this is going to be for 2021. So we are working together to get that money spent. They spend it on camps. It's for the older kids, 13 to 18, any educational camps, music lessons, summer camps, anything that they can do to benefit the lives of the children. So I met with their director today, and he is working on promoting more of these summer camps through Wild Lake schools. And so I have faith we're gonna get books cleaned up, and they're going to use this money.
Emily, can we identify that's the Lakes Area Youth as opposed to just saying youth services someplace in there, or in the minute and in the motion? Can we identify who the money is going to so it's very clear?
Yes, and the way that it's in the resolution has to be that way because that's the code that they use for HUD. But absolutely, you can do that in the minutes, in the motion, however you want to word it.
So whoever made the motion.
So I'll modify the motion to direct that the youth services funds of $4,000 goes to the Lakes Area Youth.
Thanks, Bob.
And Molly, did you?
My question was, should we, if you add up the 4 line items, they don't equal the 62,495, and that's just because I'm an accountant. Actually, what you have up there comes to 62,498. So should we change the catch-all one at the bottom for removing architectural barriers so that it actually?
That's correct. Yep.
Take $3 out of petty cash, Molly.
Yeah, just here, I'll cough it up.
Any other discussion? Okay, I see none. Roll call vote, please.
Burkheiser,
Aye.
Phillips,
Aye.
Creech, aye. Weber,
Aye.
Magner,
Aye.
Sobel,
Aye.
Gray,
Aye.
motion carried.
Okay, thank you, everybody. Thank you, Emily. Okay, item 4, introductions. Hans Renthump is going to introduce an ordinance to amend the Code of Ordinance to be known as Code Amendment number 101.052, hardship tax exemption.
Yes, thank you. The legislature amended the poverty exemption guidelines and statute at the end of December. This is basically the changes provided here are statutorily required as part of the board reviews proceeding for poverty exemptions. The main points to note on the changes are, one, you must post the guideline now on your webpage. Two, that the federal for income level test of poverty requires use of the prior tax year's federal poverty guidelines. So it clarified what guidelines are to be used. Three, it limits the exemption that can be given by the Board of Review. It used to be that the Board of Review had broad discretion as to what percentage of reduction in taxable value they could give. It is now limited to 100%, 50%, 25%, or something specifically authorized by the State Tax Commission. There is a general push to have one of those two, but my opinion is usually pick with 50 or 25%. But the way the ordinance is worth, we believe, is will be also be satisfied, which is 150 or 25. The fourth thing is requires use of the State Tax Commission forms. There is a form that's being provided by the State Tax Commission to apply for this poverty exemption, and that is reflected in the ordinance to be adopted. One point to note is it does allow, the new legislation does allow for multiple year exemptions. It has been in discussion with Molly Phillips, as well as some other people in the other communities as well. It's been decided that that's probably not in the best interest to do, and that to require the application made on a yearly basis, particularly in the volatile times right now where someone might show a significant reduction one year, but in the next year be fully gainfully employed and still be receiving the tax benefits. So it seems prudent to have that application be done next year. So the current ordinance before you does not contemplate a multi-year exemption, but that is possible. Finally, probably the most significant change is that prior to this amendment, the ordinance allowed for the Board of Review to deviate from the guidelines for what they call substantial and compelling reasons. That ability was specifically removed by the state legislature. I have tried to build in some discretionary items, which I quite frankly don't know how successfully they are or not in terms of giving the Board of Review discretion to make the decision what's before them. But we did try to do that. One of those examples is where a person's lived in a home for 20 years, and that number was nothing particular, just a long period of time. If they can show that they've lived there, then they can use the taxable value of the home 2 times that to reduce it. The taxable value, of course, typically is less than the assessed value and gives someone who might be a long-time resident that may have elderly or something of that nature a benefit of getting a reduction. Again, I'm not with 100% certainty at this point in time sure that that will hold up, but I believe it will. And that's what's before you tonight. Any questions?
Yeah, I do.
Hans, I noticed that it also removes the supervisor as a decision maker.
That is correct. That is another thing that the state legislature removed the supervisor decision maker. But that is a bit of a misnomer, because what it says actually, and I know there are multiple publications out there that have indicated the supervisor no longer has authority, and that's not necessarily true if you look at the statute in particular. It is true that the broad discretion of the supervisor has been removed, but when a Board of Review makes the decision to grant a poverty exemption, technically it has to be approved by the Board of Review and the supervisor. So
is that captured in this ordinance then?
Yeah, it is.
Okay, so I did not see that.
So Hans, on that issue on page 2 of 7, subsection 3, where it says produce a driver's license or other form of identification if requested by the supervisor. Should the supervisor be removed from that then?
I don't believe it's necessary, because the idea would be that if someone came in, provided an application, submitted an application for a poverty exemption, the supervisor would be in his right then to request that information, as opposed to going all the way to the Board of Review to correct that. Don't forget the supervisor is chief assessing officer of the township, and so is an integral part of this.
And then, so if we approve it tonight and we adopt it in March, will that be sufficient time for it to be in place for this year's Board of Review?
Yes, it will. There is, if you've been looking at some of the publications, there was a February 15th deadline that many people were saying it has to be done by. That is not the case. That February 15th is a recommendation if you are buying a multi-year exemption. So no, short answer to your question, Rick, is yes. If you adopt this tonight, or if you approve this tonight for introduction and adopt it in March, it will be timely for the board review in the March board review.
In March. Okay. All right, I'll make
So
a
Hans,
motion.
is
ahead, Bob.
the tax exemption, how do I want to word this? Is that money just gone? I mean, they don't pay it at all, or does it sit there until a future time and still is part of what's owed later? I mean, who's losing out? I mean, it's the township and the state. Do we lose out on the taxable, I'll say, value? We're not changing the taxable value of the property. So if it was sold, I mean, it would still have whatever the value is, correct?
That's correct. It is an exemption for 1 year. Once the exemption is granted, the money is lost. It is an exemption applied to the assessed value of the property, so it applies to all, the taxable values of the property, so it applied to all taxing jurisdictions. In other words, the township would take a hit, but so would all the schools and everyone else take a hit as well. Like I said, this particular ordinance is set up for a 1 year exemption, so that if once the year wraps around, you either have to come back and apply again, or you're paying the full assessed value or full tax on the taxable value.
So Molly, do you know how much?
Go ahead, Bob.
Well, Molly, do we know on an annual basis how much we've lost? I guess I'll say, or so I don't know how. I was going to say.
I don't know the property exemptions, Bob. The only one I got a report from Oakland County Equalization about a year ago about how much we have lost from the veterans exemptions, which are 100% exemptions across the board.
That's only, yeah.
I did a report on
that's
that.
for veterans though that are 100% disabled.
Right.
Right.
Hans, where does the threshold of $300,000 in assets come from?
That is a source of some debate amongst various parties. I can tell you the 300,000 has been selected as something that was there before, and it was selected in the past on this basis. The idea is that all assets be included in that exemption amount. So not only just your personal property, cars, boats, motorcycles, etc., but also the house as well. The property itself is included. Now, there have been those that have argued that it should be a much lower number, say $50,000, $25,000, $70,000, somewhere on there, and that the house be excluded. In having discussions about this, I think it was with Molly, we've had problems where people have tried to sort of take advantage of the system by saying, oh, look, I have no money, I have no income, I have no assets, I just own all I have is this house. And lo and behold, yeah, they're getting money from family members that reside in the house that may not be showing on there or whatever else. So the idea behind this was, we're not going to let you have a $500,000 house and have assets of less than $50,000 and get an exemption. That's where that number came from.
So do we know, and maybe Molly, this is a question from you, do we know how other municipalities treat this in terms of what their threshold is? I don't know whether 300,000 is a good number or not. I don't have a good feel. I like the answer, Hans, regarding putting it all into one bucket so that we're trying to get to those people that are truly in need. But I'm just curious if we know what other areas use as their threshold.
I don't know.
I can tell you that most of them have a much lower threshold and exclude the residency.
Do we get to choose our requirements, or is there any guidelines?
You have certain limitations, but you do get to choose some of the things. Yes. So the $300,000 is a number that you could change. Like I said, I know that Oakland County has come back, and we've had this discussion not only this year but in past years about whether the house should be excluded or not. They are of the opinion that it should be excluded, but I am comfortable saying that legally it can be included in a higher amount used.
What was it
Motion
previous years.
to,
It is not, the 300,000 is not changed
Okay,
from the previous years.
okay. So I'll make a motion to introduce an ordinance, amend the code of ordinances to be known as Code Amendment Ordinances Number 1-052, Hardship Tax Exemption.
Support.
or motion, Sobel, support Phillips. Roll call vote. Any discussion?
We did the discussion first. We went out of
Well,
order.
I'm just asking again, got to follow rules. Roll call vote, please.
Sobel,
Aye.
Phillips,
Aye.
Weber,
Aye.
Burkheiser,
Aye.
Magner,
Aye.
Creech, aye. Gray,
Aye.
motion carried.
Great. Thank you, Hans.
Thank you.
Next up, item 5, adoptions. This is an ordinance that we went over last month as an introduction, which is ordinance to amend code ordinances to be known as Code Amendment Ordinance Number 1.0. Oh, reading the wrong one. I apologize. An ordinance to amend the code ordinance to be known as Code Amendment Ordinance Number 1.051, the 2021 International Fire Code. Again, we discussed this last month, and I believe we were updating from the code from 2015, I believe.
2012.
I believe that's
2012, sorry.
12. And there are no changes from introduction last month.
Move for adopt ordinance known as 1.051, 2021 International Fire Code.
Support.
Support.
So motion, Burkheiser support. Roll call vote.
Sobel,
Aye.
Burkheiser,
Aye.
Creech, aye. Phillips,
Aye.
Weber,
Aye.
Magner,
Aye.
Gray,
Aye.
carried.
Okay, item number 6. Site condominiums and flats. We're going to discuss the towns at Merrill Park. Mr. Campbell, would you like to overview?
Sure. This is a proposal for a attached condominium project consisting of 103 new attached townhomes being proposed by Pulte. The subject property is not far from Township Hall on the east side of Martin Road between Oakley Park Road and Township Drive on a 16-acre property that currently houses a office building and a former driving range behind it. What Pulte proposes to do is demolish the existing building and prep the site for these 103 townhomes. This is a project that the Township Board has seen before as recently as November because it came before you as a conditional rezoning. The property was zoned TLM, Technology and Light Manufacturing. And what Pulte proposed to do through a conditional rezoning is also cover the property with what we call the town center overlay. So the TLM base zoning remained the same, but the town center overlay was extended one property to the north to pick up the subject property so that it would also be in the overlay. And what that accomplished for them is the TC overlay allows for a residential product and specifically a attached townhome product, which would allow Pulte's project to move forward. So the board approved that conditional rezoning in November after a public hearing and a recommendation from the Planning Commission. Pulte has since come back to the Planning Commission at their meeting last week, Monday, for condominium site plan approval. The Planning Commission granted said approval. So Pulte's last formal step with the Township Board is for condominium site plan approval from the Township Board. Because these are owner-occupied units, any condominium in Commerce Township has to go in front of both the Planning Commission and the Township Board. So they are in front of you this evening with their final condominium site plan and with their master deed that's been reviewed by the Township Attorney. Mr. Rentrop agrees that the master deed is in good and recordable shape. So as I say, this is something of the last step as far as coming to evening meetings for Pulte to get to the finish line on this project. Pulte has two representatives with us this evening, Joe Score and their engineer, Bill Anderson. They're both prepared to make a presentation, understanding that the board has seen this project before and I hope has a decent understanding of what it's all about. So I will answer any questions the board may have, and from there, turn it over to Mr. Score and Mr. Anderson. I'm not hearing any, I guess, Mr. Anderson, if you want to give us an overview of the project.
Just real quick, are they taking out the building that's across, I'm going to say catty corner across the street? So the field and whatnot that's behind there, the old driving range, I think.
Yes.
But all the stuff that was in front of it, those buildings go also? From looking
Correct.
at the map, it looks like they do. Okay.
Yeah, the buildings would go away, essentially where the retention ponds for this project would land, where the building is currently.
Okay, that's what it was looking like. It looked like it was near the parking lot. Okay. Thank you.
So Bill, I don't know if you wanted to give an overview of the project on Pulte's behalf?
I'd love to, David. Thanks. And I'll be brief. Again, everyone has seen it before. So if I could just share the screen real quick. Hold on. Amateur night here.
Jacob, is Bill able to share the screen? There we go.
Assuming I'm technically savvy here. Yeah, pleasure to be here tonight. I'll just be brief. Again, we're here for Towns of Merrill Park. Appreciate being in front of you again for the last step. As David indicated, our site is located essentially across the street, close proximity to M5, nice transitional zoning property from industrial down to the town center area. It was just asked about, these are the buildings. There's about 35,000 square feet, mostly vacant, multi-use buildings up front. These are part of the property and will be demolished as we move through the project. Yep, we're zoned technology, light manufacturing is your zoning map on the left. And then as part of the future land use, we're included in the Commerce Town Center future land use map area. So our proposal is consistent with the master plan. And it puts us in the town center overlay district. So just briefly there. Here's our overall site. As everyone can see, 16 acres, 103 two-story townhome product. These are for sale units. We come in at a density of about 6.6. A lot of open space. There'll be ownership units. The rest of it is open space. We have about 40% of the site, or 6 acres, 6+ acres is open space. We have a nice boulevard entrance. The units are set back nicely, 130+ feet off of Martin Drive there. Come in, terminate, nice looped road. We have significant buffers on the north side, south side to Merrill Park. We have some nice preservation. We have about a 1 acre preservation in the northeast side and in the southeast side as well. So that's our layout. We got a nice little recreational internal park as well. So that's our project. Remained pretty consistent throughout. Since we saw you folks and the planning commissioners at CR, we've made a couple of plan changes from our discussions with your body and the commission. I'd like to just briefly touch on those. We've upgraded our garage doors as proposed. We've adjusted the internal park location. It was moved a little east to correspond with an existing drainage easement. We've enhanced our Martin Drive townhome rear elevation. I'll show you that in a minute. And as David had indicated, we submitted our master deed and bylaw documents for your council review. And everyone can see these are the garage doors. We increased windows and details on them, so we're pretty excited about that change and wanted to show you that. And then here's an enhanced rear elevation. I'd like to have Joe Score, if he's on, talk a little bit about the improved architecture here, Joe. Joe Score.
So Mr. Anderson?
Yeah.
Let me ask real quick.
Sure.
I think I see one, it looks like the one entrance coming off of Martin Parkway, and it's for, I guess, coming in and going out. Looks
That's
like
right.
there's another road in the back, whatever. Yes. Is that emergency only, or are
This
people?
is emergency access. Yes, thank you. I didn't mention that. That is going to be a gated emergency access only. That's right.
So
And that's Ridgeway Court.
I mean, there's not a light there coming in and out. I'm back out the main entrance then, and people come flying around that roundabout. So I was reading something, although it looks like you have an acceleration and deceleration lane. Is that
Right.
in fact going in? Okay.
That's right. Coming
And
into
I'm
the
trying
site
to remember.
and exiting.
It's divided there, right? So they can't make a left turn coming out of there. So I guess that's okay.
Yeah.
So they
it's
have to go all the way up, loop around the roundabout at Oakley Park to come back to go to M5?
No, they can make a left turn
You
there.
can make it,
Bob.
you can make a direct left.
Are we, so we're
It's
gonna
up
let
a
them
little
make a
bit.
like direct left and go across 4 lanes or 2 lanes?
That's right.
Not easily during rush hour, but yeah.
Yeah, I don't, in the morning and night, which is when the issue is gonna be,
Yeah.
I think that's,
It's dangerous there because
So-
people are going very fast.
yeah.
But there is a center lane if they needed to go over to and then merge in.
That's correct.
Okay. I don't know. George, did you guys talk about all that or, and did the road commission?
I'm sorry,
We
there's something
did
going on
talk
right
about
now.
it. And there was, we did review the traffic study. And the belief was with the deceleration lane, that one, if it is heavy traffic, that the people can turn right, go to the roundabout, and then flip back around. Or if there's no traffic, they can make a left-hand turn, which is really not dissimilar to the office buildings that are there today. And a key, I think, element that we considered, if this property was built upon as just office space, there would be significantly more traffic that would be going in and out of the property, making more left-hand turn lanes, et cetera.
That's correct. Yeah.
I was surprised to read that
No,
in the traffic report too.
I'm not sure. I know I read that, but I just, okay. I mean, I have to trust them, I guess, but it just seems that most of the traffic is going to be morning and night, whereas if it was businesses, it'd be spread throughout the day. So I'm not sure that it would be as bunched that it'll be, but okay.
If it was businesses, it would all be morning and night. You know, it would only be rush hour.
Yeah.
Okay. If nothing else, yeah, I wanted, I don't know if Joe's available. He could talk about kind of the enhancements we made on the rear elevations of the units coming in off of Martindale. That's one of the improvements we made to the plans.
Jacob, can you unmute Joe Score if he's...
Joe is not muted, actually.
Okay. All right, maybe he's not here. He was. Anyways, we spent quite a bit of time. The Planning Commission and the board had mentioned quite a bit about the units. We have about 10 units, 2 buildings backing up to Martindale. So there's a lot of concern about what that rear elevation did. So we spent a lot of time enhancing the roof lines and making some alternating materials. And this is kind of the end product of that. As you can see, our first unit, we have a first floor brick. And then the next unit, we had stone that we took up through the second floor. And then we alternated between the different materials. And then again, we've also added some interesting roof lines to these buildings. So we're pretty excited. That was one of the enhancements we made after our discussions on the initial time in front of everybody. Just as far as public benefits, we really think this product is going to meet a nice housing demand. It's targeted towards the young family and active adult folks. It'll keep valued residents in your community and draw in some new young families. And it's a new development in your town center area with, you know, central proximity to the amenities and your primary transportation corridor. So this is a great location for this home product. Again, we're preserving woodlands in here. We got over an acre woodland in the northeast and in the southeast corner, providing buffers and some mature appeal on the project. Again, it's consistent with the township's master plan for this area, being on the edge of your town center district. As part of this overall development, we are going to have HOA maintained. So we're going to have one person maintaining, one entity maintaining all the landscaping and the lawn throughout. So we'll have a nice, clean look throughout the community at all times. And again, our architecture, this is just another picture of kind of our 2-story single family townhome. These are 3-bedroom units. And that's what I have. And I'm here for any questions you may have on the project. Thank you.
I have one question. Can, at some point when the HOA takes over, can they make this a gated community?
It's not intended for that, and I assume that would be a modification of the conditional rezoning. So I would tend to say no without a subsequent review by this body. David, I don't know if you feel otherwise.
That would be my answer as well. That would require site plan approval or an amendment to the approved site plan and potentially an amendment to the conditional rezoning. So the township would have oversight over a change such as that.
Okay.
Is this a PUD or no?
This is a condominium site plan, but it is the outcome of a conditional rezoning.
Okay, so sort of the same.
From the planning commission, I will point out that we weren't very easy on Mr. Score or Mr. Anderson as it related to not just landscaping and garage doors, but more specifically to the 10 units that would back up to Martin Parkway. I think they did a great job with that. By the way, we advised them it was going to be critical that being a focal point for all the traffic going past, that the back of those units look just as nice as the front. And I think they've done that and more. And I'll also point out that maybe they didn't maybe appreciate it as much, but they have agreed that they would not use any vinyl siding on these homes either. It would all be a coated or a painted cement work product. So it will be very much in tune with the Merrill Park subdivision just to the south, and I think look very nice.
Thank you. You mind talking about the sidewalk situation? I was a little confused when I read that there's not going to be sidewalks near a few of the units, and the planning commission can wish to discuss with the developer if they should be placed elsewhere.
There's a portion of the internal loop road that the sidewalk is not proposed along the north side of the north portion of that internal loop road. But as Mr. Score explained it to me, the part of the rationale for not having a sidewalk there is because they're trying to create a landscape berm between this development and the industrial park to the north. And so to put a sidewalk there would be cutting into that berm and cutting away from that buffer. So the planning commission was accepting of that answer. There's still a sidewalk along the interior of the loop road, just not along that portion of the exterior.
Okay, and will there be a sidewalk connecting to the subdivision to the south?
There is not. So that's the Merrill Park neighborhood. There will be a sidewalk out along Martin Road, or actually one exists currently. The Pulte is going to have to reconfigure its orientation to make space for the right turn lane along the east side of Martin. But that would be the one sidewalk connection is along the existing frontage sidewalk of Martin Road.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll make a motion to approve PSP 21-01 Towns at Merrill Park, 103 attached townhome condominiums on 3144 Martin Road, with all of the conditions previously recommended by the Planning Commission.
Support.
Motion Weber, support Magner.
Mm-hmm.
Discussion. Roll call vote. Missy, you're muted.
Sorry about that. Weber?
Aye.
Magner?
Aye.
Burkheiser?
Aye.
Phillips?
Aye.
Creech? Aye. Sobel?
Aye.
Gray?
Okay.
Motion carried.
Motion carried. Thank you guys for your presentation.
Thank you very much, everybody. Have a good night.
Moving on to item 7, old business. First up, it's going to be Listex system from Jason from Gift Weber's.
Yep. So last month, Listec made a presentation. There was discussion and several good questions were raised. I included a letter in the board packet with additional information to address the questions that came up. So I can go through them if you want, or I'm happy to answer any questions you might have. But basically, the project plan is the next thing that we need to complete in order to keep applying for the SRF loan if this is going to be a 2022 project. We do have some time to determine which quarter the project goes into if you want to get additional information before going forward with the 35% design and permitting. The intent to apply was submitted by the deadline, and we did have a SRF application meeting with Eagle at the end of January. And also finally, Dawn emailed me back yesterday and said that the $270,000 spent on this would not affect her rate recommendations. So I'm happy to answer any questions on the letter or continued discussion on this. And
I do have a question for Hans about insurance, my favorite topic. So are you, after you doing your research, are you comfortable with this or?
Yes, it was an interesting research project because there's the federal, state levels and regulating and permitting, and you look at everything from CERCLA to the Environmental Protection Act to all sorts of things. The long and short answer is I believe that your liability is equal to or less than what you are currently doing. And Jason can correct me on this in the technicalities if I misspeak here, but my understanding is that the product that is going to be coming out of the Listec system is, for all essential purposes, cleaner and safer than it would be than what we are dumping in the landfill right now. Further, I know, for example, there's a big push for both the feds and the state to kind of recycle stuff. So under CERCLA, for example, the federal liability statute, if you comply with your permitting requirements, then there's no, you can't be held liable under CERCLA. At the state level, you do get a permit from the Eagle. Eagle is familiar with it. They do have permitting requirements and somewhat similarly. Now, it doesn't exclude liability. There is going to be liability. But again, if you comply with those permits, it's much more difficult to do with it. So based upon those reasons, one other point is, my understanding is that this will be hauled away approximately twice a year. And each time those soils or those biosolids will be tested so that they're sure that not, we have a clean one on one and dirty one another. The biggest concern is, as Jason points out in his letters, what the future may hold and what is and isn't safe. But to this point in time, we don't know what it is. We don't know what we don't know. So my conclusion is, like I said, you are either equal to or better than the current situation.
And then, so the additional type of liability we don't have, the exposure we don't have right now, and I don't know if it falls under the government immunity or not, is the fertilizer application. When once it gets converted to fertilizer, if there's any recourse if something goes wrong coming back to us.
And that was a question I did. I did look at the township's insurance requirements and tried to kind of pick it out. And I did notice that there's a coverage for environmental stuff arising out of the wastewater treatment plant. I wasn't sure whether that coverage would extend, as this is a product of that plant, to them. And that was one of the things that, if you decide to move forward and you were interested in including insurance, I think a further discussion with the insurance carrier is appropriate.
Because this would make it an off-site hazard.
Yes, it would. I think that, again, if it's something that it's an off-site hazard both now and if we go with this route, both of them will be off-site hazards.
Well, but the difference is this is going to the food chain. The other is just going into a landfill.
And they don't just, I've learned that they don't distinguish it that much, believe it or not. The advantage in this case is, and from a practical aspect, it's more fully dispersed. We are not the owner. We are selling the product to, or buying, I don't know how you would, buying the product, I guess, from the township at a loss for us. So they are responsible for the contracts with the farmers and whatnot. I also did note that farmers that apply this have massive protections, as long as they comply with the permitting requirements as well. So yes, there is. I'm not going to pretend for a second there isn't liability. there is. I just don't know, whether it's amounts to something just sufficient enough to go to additional insurance requirements. It may very well be, and to what extent it's covered under our current policy.
Yeah, I don't know either.
Jason.
Yes.
So in reading this, and I don't know, maybe I'm just confused, but the Class B, if there's places, farms that use it, says that they have to, I don't know, let it sit for 3 years before they can do any human consumption crops. And I vaguely remember the guy last month telling us that even though we're turning this into a Class A bio fertilizer, that it was not going to be used on crops for human consumption. But on page 2, unless I misunderstand, one, it says that this one now, even as a Class B, farmers don't have to wait to use their land. So I'm confused. Do you know what the plan is? I mean, is it, and Rick was saying had to do with human consumption. I think it's not really going into the food chain if it's, well, I guess it is if it's being eaten by cows, but if it's going into corn.
That was my understanding.
What's happening with this? Okay.
That was my understanding from the ListTech presentation, that it's not going to human consumed crops. So that they would be the ones managing which farmers they work with, and that was part of their presentation, is that it would not go to.
And so they pick this stuff up in trucks. They go to their contracted farmers, and they're the ones actually deploying it, injecting it into the ground. Correct?
Correct. The farmers have equipment to inject this product.
So Jason, appreciate the work that you put into this, and there were a couple of very interesting things to me in here, specifically that 71% of our expense today is from hauling. So I would have expected the heavy side would have been the landfill side, but the landfill is actually just 29% of the cost. It's the trucks that are 71%. So therefore, the thought of being able to truck this to Pontiac's new $35 million facility or whatever really goes out the door, even if they wanted it, which they probably wouldn't. I still have, I think we are going to have to do something, but I think timing is important. And while $270,000 is not a small expense, the fact that LISTEC only has 3 facilities running in the entire U.S. is still a concern to me. I had asked Jason the question before, so what happens, we make this expenditure and LISTEC goes out of business? What happens? And he was pretty confident that one, the equipment or the machinery that's being installed is not rocket science, and that we'd be able to keep it up and running and maintain it. But we would then have to partner with somebody else to come pick this fertilizer up. And there are 1 or 2 companies, I think, that do that. Syntec, I think, was one, and maybe somebody else. But my personal view is that I would wait a year to see what happens with LISTEC, see what happens if they get the facility up and running in Southgate. And I think just as important, if we are going to have some kind of an infrastructure as part of the stimulus bill, that is going to have a lot to do with renewable energy and green concepts, that there might be some potential future federal or state monies that might help us get there. So it's, like I said, I think we're going to have to do something at some point in time. To me, with as new as LISTEC is, I'd feel more comfortable waiting at least a year to see where things pan out.
See, I'll go on the other side and say they've been in business for 20 years, at least they say. They've got facilities around. I personally, I mean, if we waited for the water tank and if we waited for some of the other things that we did, I think we'd be paying a heck of a lot more for our water, because it would just now be coming online if we waited. I personally would not want to see us postpone the sewer project. I think that's what it was. And I think that the amount is, I'm going to say, I agree it's not a small amount, but I'm going to say in respect to what everything else is, it's a small amount. And to get us on trail, I think even if we were started and anything that came from the feds, we would still be able to apply. It's going to be through grant system. I don't think it has to be a new project to do that, but
So
I don't
you're
know that we
willing
can
to-
count on that either.
You're willing
I
to
am.
go out and
Personally,
sell another $5 million worth of bonds right now?
We don't need the bond for it. We have the money in the sewer fund.
No, we don't.
The Listec system is a bonded project.
Was it a bonded project?
It is in capital improvement plan for the rate study that Dawn did. It was a bonded project, yes.
Okay, my mistake.
Jason, can you give a financial obligation and a timeline? So at what point would we have to pay what
So
if we move forward tonight?
Sure. So I put the timeline from the state in the packet. So let me just.
Sorry, what page is that one on?
It's after the Listec presentation, but basically the project plan is what's due next, and we would need to get started on the project plan. That's just a portion of the 270,000. That would be the next thing that they need, and they want to review a draft by the end of March so that it can be approved in June. So that would be the next thing, and then you can choose which quarter you want to do the project in. So I think I put in there
It's on page 87 in the board pack.
Yeah, so I'm looking for something with the cost attached to it, I guess.
Right. So you would actually close on the loan. It would be anywhere from December 10th of 2021 if you did first quarter. So that's when you would be locked into doing the project, and all the way as far as August 29th of 2022. So you could have up until August 29th of 2022 to have a fourth quarter project where you would actually sign the loan paperwork. And that would be for the whole $5.5 million that the project costs. So you would actually be signing for that loan.
Are there any other solutions?
Are there any other? I'm sorry, I didn't.
Are there any other solutions, options available to us?
This, I mean, we could, I listed some in the letter, none that are drastically better as far as the payback. I mean, we can look at different things, but every other option is going to require additional equipment, additional storage, odor control. So that's kind of where I went with that, is that this system drops almost into the existing infrastructure of the plant. And that's one reason why Eagle is actually on board with doing a design build with Listec rather than going out for bid for an SRF loan and having a whole bunch of other options considered. So
what are some of the other surrounding wastewater treatment plants doing?
Landfill or applying Class B is really the two biggest options. Some of the bigger facilities like Great Lakes Water Authority actually incinerate it. But they also do some landfilling in Class B. You can make Class B, and we have Commerce treatment plant has a belt press in it, so we can actually get our solids more solid than some plants. The ones without presses have to haul the liquid, so that's why the belt presses were installed in 2012. But they can make pellets out of heating up the biosolids. So it's either putting it on top of the ground and then working it into the earth is what the land applying would be, or hauling it to a landfill.
So I appreciate George's concerns that if this is such a great option, I'm trying to figure out why aren't other treatment plants going to this option?
There are similar options, but you'd still be creating something that goes on top of the earth. The reason that it works well here is because of the existing infrastructure. So another plant might have to build the belt presses, which we already built as part of the expansion. They might not have a building where the equipment can be just taking up a bay of a haul-off dumpster. So it's because Commerce Township has the existing infrastructure to basically just set this in place, put some piping. We also have the storage to store the equipment. We have enough storage to store 2 years of this material on site already that we're not using.
So George, what would you look for in a year from now? How would you know it's now the right time to do it?
Well, I don't know that if I would, but again, I feel a $5 million expenditure that's not budgeted for and having to have paperwork in by the end of March. Again, I feel rushed for a company that, yeah, Bob, they've been in business for 20 years, but they're privately held. We have no financial statements. We've seen nothing on whether they're a healthy company or not. And their track record in the US is really, really light for, in my opinion, for this kind of an expenditure right now. Again, I'll go back to the comment, there's times to be a leader and there's times to be a fast follower. And maybe if we could get their financial statements for the past X number of years, I'd feel more comfortable. But it's just a company, there's not much out there. They were started at the University of Waterloo in Ontario, probably as some kind of a government-backed project to figure out how to better utilize human waste. So, and I get all that, but it's not to say that I'm wanting to bet $5 million on somebody that there's very little track record of at the moment.
So one more question for either Molly, Tom Tracyak's not on board here, so, or Hans. If we do the bonding, does the bonding company look at the finances of the company we're going to be purchasing the services from, or they just rely strictly on our financial rating?
I don't know.
I don't know the answer to that.
Well, this would be an SRF loan, so you would be going through the SRF loan. It wouldn't be a bonded project through Tom Tracyak. It would be bonded through the Michigan Finance Authority.
Okay, then the same question applies. Do they look at where we're going to be spending the money?
There is a whole permitting process and they prepare all the paperwork to review and sign, and it's going to come back to you to review, and Hans will have a chance to look at it. Molly will have a chance to look at it. So
that's not what I mean.
I don't know what
financial. Do they verify anything financially on Listec?
I'm not sure.
So Molly or
Jason, do you know when they're going to be finished with the Southgate project?
They've already got it permitted, and I believe they'll be starting construction soon. That one I don't think went through an SRF loan or had any of the other deadlines that we would need to meet to do the SRF loan. So I would think that would be online in the next year and a half. I think they said it would be online by the end of this year when they did the presentation.
So Molly, are bond rates like mortgage rates now? The rates are really low, and in a year from now, who knows? Or if things.
Well, it's coming from
where put your Harry Potter wizard hat on.
Well, the loan would be from the state, so I don't know that they have to follow the bond market, but the bonds that we just sold to do the Peninsular Park paving were at 1.55%, which is pretty darn low.
So whatever rates would you not, you wouldn't expect them to go lower. They would only go higher if you waited a year or a year and a half, would they?
There are a lot of balls to make that prediction right now. I wouldn't jump on that. I mean, I know somebody who just refinanced their mortgage for 1.5, and I thought I had it good at 2.8 since 2012. So.
I need to know that one.
Same guy that bought a lot of Bitcoin and GameStop.
Probably.
The SRF loan right now is 1.875 for 20 years.
And I'll just throw out there, I'm looking at the debt schedule for the capital improvement, all the bonds that have been issued and refunded and all that stuff over the years for the sewer fund. And we're currently on the hook for about $3 million a year between now and 2038, and then $1 million in 2039. But I'm also looking at the information from WRC. This is as of September 30th, because I'm still waiting to get the December information. But as of September 30th, WRC had $10 million in unrestricted retained earnings. So I'm not saying it's a stretch that we'd even have to bond for 100% of it if we didn't want to. I wouldn't go so far as to say the sewer fund can't afford it, is what I'm saying.
Well, that would be I think that would be at least for me, that would be an important piece of information. I mean, to me, there's a big difference between a $5 million bond project and a $2 million bond project. And again,
actually not a whole lot when it's 1.8%.
Same amount of money. So
yeah, but I guess one is debt where we already have a lot. And again, I'm looking at it from a macro point of view, and one's less debt. I think I'm a big supporter of living in our means.
Jason, when do we need to make a decision by? If we don't do it, if we just table it for tonight, try to get more information on financing and improve our comfort level, what will that do?
So it's the project plan that's due next, and I was estimating that about 20,000 of the 270. So if we want to keep the process moving and not delay it a year for sure by removing the intent to apply, that I would have to get started on the at least on the project plan tonight.
So Jason, with the project plan though, if we did that, we could shelve that for a year or two, right?
Yes.
So
yes.
So
when's the next step that we have a decision that costs us money? So if we said, okay, do the project plan, it's 20,000. Does that mean next month we're going to have to do this again and to move forward, or what does that buy us by getting you started?
So the plans and permits need to be to Eagle by August 30th of 2021 for the first quarter, as late as May 16th, 2022 to get fourth quarter financing. So they need to have the 35% plans in their hands to review them by those dates.
At the 270?
And that
is the financing just the finance? Is it giving us any kind of a grant, a discount?
When we met with them at the end of January, they said that they have a lot of green projects coming in. So it's probably going to be the 5%, which didn't really change the payback a lot. Many years ago, it was up around 25 or 30, but the amount of applications they're getting, they anticipate it's going to be maybe 5%. So I wouldn't think there's a lot of green project funding. Obviously, we'll look for other grants that are available. If anything from the government comes out, we'll apply for that. And usually those let you go back a few years. So if something does come out and it's a project in design, we can try to apply for that. But I'm not aware of anything coming out that is directly related to this in the near future, but the green project funding is around 5%. And that's through the SRF loan. So you would have to get an SRF loan to get the green project forgiveness.
So, Jason, if we were to ask Lystec for 5 years financials, what do you think they would say?
I think we could get them. Their answer to the question about them being a new business and not having a long track record is that their Commerce Township, their total material that they would be taking from us is less than 1.5% of what they're handling right now. So they didn't seem too concerned about having a place to put this, and it seems like they're growing. There's at least one other one going in Michigan, and that's obviously the next place that you would expand from Canada. Seems like you'd get in the region where they can drive. They've driven to the Commerce treatment plant a few times, so it's within their area. But that was their answer. I think they would give the financials. I don't see. They've been pretty open with whatever we ask them.
And we heard from Dawn that we wouldn't need to increase sewer rates in order to cover this.
We can, so in the probably next month, Dawn provided a proposal to look at the rates again. It sounded like the last time she did it, you wanted it to be a yearly thing. So I got a proposal from her to do that. But she did have 6.9% rate increases for the next 4 years, starting in 2022. So that's what was in her 2020 rate study.
But that's not because of this project.
This project was bonded. It would be through the SRF loan or bonded. So that was not, she took that into account, that this would not be a project that you paid cash for.
But so she did take that into account, which came up with the increase, is what you're saying.
The 6.9% had this project in the capital improvements as a bonded project. So it was in there, but it's not paid for in cash, like I think that George was more suggesting to go to.
All right, let me ask it this way, because I'm not sure I understand the answer. If we were not doing this project, would Dawn still recommend a 6.9% increase?
Yes.
So either way, she's still recommending a 6.9 increase. So going back to kind of Vanessa's question, I think maybe it's, so this project is not causing the increase in rates.
How could $5 million not affect anything?
Because it's outside of that. So the 6.9 is what we have today. Anything, this is all going to be, ultimately, the taxpayers are going to be paying an incremental 5 million with a somewhere between an 8 to 20-year payback, depending upon the increase in trucking costs to get this stuff to a landfill.
But it's the sewer users, not the township taxpayers as a whole.
Right. The sewer.
Just to clarify.
Yeah.
So to go back to that, the $5 million bonded project would obviously have a 20-year payback of the capital and that $5 million. So that was taken into account over the 20 years. So it's not $5 million in year 2022.
Right.
You'd have to pay it back, but it's over a financed period of time.
I just want to know, and I guess I do know, but the increase, some of that increase has to go back to pay for this over the next 20 years. I'm just wondering if we didn't do it, at some point there may not need to be such a big increase.
So
okay.
If we take $5 million divided by 20 years, I know that's $250,000. Right, without any interest. And do we have anything showing what with our savings from the landfill? So the trucking costs would go down or disappear? The landfill. So what, I guess, how much would our savings be that we could allocate towards this cost? Do we have that number?
Jason's got his payback schedule. That's, now I can't find.
Don't see.
Is it possible for you to put that up and share your screen?
Can I bring something to everybody's attention also?
Yeah.
So we've got,
Yes.
you know, however many different building projects that are going in. If the downtown goes and the homes across the street, and if Crystal Lake goes and we finish Barrington, all of those people are going to have sewer hookup that we're not collecting revenue from now.
That's true.
That's a lot of stuff, especially if the downtown gets going in the next, you know, couple of years. That's not just, you know, 1 REU or whatever measurement we're using per home anymore. That's big stuff that's not here yet. And it's coming. And I mean, we've got projects starting all over the place that are hundreds of rooftops. So that are all going to be able to hook into that and start paying sewer fees. So until that stuff built out, Dawn can't, you know, put that kind of speculation into her numbers, but those are facts on what we're going to get in the water and sewer departments.
But Dawn usually puts in some number of new hookups. I don't remember from a year ago what she's using, but I agree with your point. It's a valid point. Some of that may already be in the formula. Which is one reason why we want to have her start doing it every year as opposed to every 3 to 5 years. So can you find your cost savings?
It was, I mean, it was on the payback was 8 to 18 years. And that was assuming anywhere from a 10% landfill cost increase to a 35% landfill cost increase. I did send the spreadsheet to Molly and Don to take a look at. It was the costs minus the savings, and those were the years that it equaled the total payback of the initial capital project.
And does that include there's like a maintenance fee, right? There's
yeah,
that includes that.
That takes into account their management fee to have Listec do the actual coordinating of getting the product to the fields.
So right now we're paying $270,000 a year. So that's going to go up. So let's just round that to $300,000. If we had a $5 million bond over a 20-year period, or the loan over a 20-year period, that's $250,000 a year plus the interest. So maybe it does get us to, this I'd have to ask Molly to make sure I'm not missing something, but it's almost a bit of a wash, assuming we have no incremental costs other than the 5 million.
It would be a wash unless the landfill costs keep going up 35%.
Right.
So I think, George, what we're doing is we're stabilizing and controlling our costs, eliminating some of the unknown wild variance between 10% and 35%. And with Molly's point, which I agree, is that we will be having some additional revenue coming in to pay for it. It's probably not costing us $5 million, probably costing us, I don't know, maybe it's less than $50,000 a year or something like that.
Not only additional revenue, but additional waste.
So what if we made a motion to give Jason the $20,000 now to start the plan? And then that would give Jason, I'd still like to find out if Listec is profitable or not. I mean, because just because they've been around doesn't mean they're making money. And just because they've got a great product doesn't mean they can stay in business. So I'd feel before we went much further than the plan, at least to see what their financials look like. Probably going back 5
Jason,
years.
what's that get you out to? Does that get you till August? Or do we have to do other stuff before then?
Well, we can wait till the fourth quarter. That would be the first quarter. So we can wait till after that. That'll get me to June and get the project plan approved, which would be the next step in the SRF loan process.
Okay.
That might be a good idea. And then when can we get Dawn scheduled maybe a little bit sooner?
Dawn's scheduled to get her scheduled
sooner than
than
when we were going to do. Okay. And that way we can have an independent audit of the finances based on whatever she's able to, decipher, and we can try to ask for your financials.
And can we ask ask Dawn to put a filter on her numbers and maybe Dave Campbell can get you the number of new developments that are going to be that basically we've already approved within the township or are in process, just to see what that looks like in terms of what the revenues will be into the sewer fund.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's a good plan.
Don's proposal to do the rate studies was $7,500 a piece for each water and sewer, is what she sent me. I just got it yesterday, though.
So, George, do you want to make a motion?
Sure. I'll make a motion to approve up to $20,000 to Giffords Webster to complete the the project plan? What's the definition here, Jason?
That's the project plan, yes.
The project plan for the for a potential purchase of the LISTEC system.
Support.
Support.
Support by Sobel. Motion. Any other discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Weber,
Aye.
Sobel,
Aye.
Magner. Magner, Burkheiser,
Aye.
Phillips,
Aye.
Creech, aye. Gray,
Aye.
motion carried.
Good stuff, Jason. I know you put a lot of work into this, and I think you, at least for me, you helped answer a lot of questions with.
Yeah, thank you.
Provided.
Appreciate it. I know it's a big decision, so I'll get you where you need.
Thank you, Jason. Next up is the maintenance department. Director Mark Schroeder.
Hi, everybody. I'm here to ask the board to consider a request for another full-time employee to the maintenance department. The reason is we've taken on more responsibility, township growth, and quite a few future projects we have requested. We've taken on the railroad trails, cleaning janitorial to 8585, cutting lawn there. We do all the sprinkler system startup and repair. Scarlett's Playground is a 7-day operation with trash, and the restrooms about to open. In the summer, horse farm, we've been over there doing whatever Emily or anybody asks us to do. A few projects, lighting and insulation to the observation room. We've taken on cleaning windows at a few of the buildings. We have projects lined up for the library is fix the walls, paint them, put up chair molding so we can eliminate all the damage. Fencing at the cemetery, bridges, some of them need facelifts. Bleacher pads were brought up, concrete bleacher pads. Pine trees, a lot of them down. And we'd also like to see if we can take over the plowing, which would offset some of the cost of the new employee.
So Mark, this is a budgeted position, right? We approved this incremental head in the budget.
Yeah, we approved two, but I'm just asking for one right now.
And so what is the, it wasn't clear to me so how much are you going to pay this new person? Meaning, I guess, what are you going to advertise that's going to help ensure you get somebody on board? Because I agree, you get there's a lot of work that could be done that you're constricted with.
Yeah, we're going to go with the usual level one. We're going to start off at that. And they got a 6-month, just what we're paying now. And then they're going to, after 6 months to get their probation period, they're going to move up in pay.
So $16 an hour.
That would be, $16.24. Yep.
$16 an hour with benefits. Right?
Yes.
And
Yes.
So you think you'll be able to get somebody?
We interviewed people. We did interviews and we found 2 really good fits for it. Really good. We're really happy.
So Mark, you commented about Scarlet Smile, and this would put your total staff at 4. Have you thought about shifting, I guess I'll say, service hours to where we're not just there Monday through Thursday, that we actually have coverage all 7 days? I mean, the library's open 7 days, Richardson's open, the park. So, I mean, maybe shifting work to the weekend and then shifting those around. Have you looked at providing that better service to the community?
Yeah, we have, and whatever we decide to do, we as far as we have a paid on call, we're looking at too, but we'll get into that a little bit. But we're always available. We'll work whatever we can, anything you guys think we need, we're there. Just like the concert in the park, we're going to make sure somebody's always there to take care of that. Scarlett's Playground.
I mean, my thought, at least when I read it, was one, it shouldn't be you every time being called out, which, I mean, honestly, on the weekends and the stuff, it seems like it was always you. So number one, that needs to be distributed more evenly. I know I saw you're on call. I mean, I think of that as after hours. So I'm talking about actual hours that people work on Friday, Saturday, Sunday. On call to me is, I don't know, the alarm goes off at 10 o'clock at night, or I don't know, maybe that's not even the good, whatever. Somebody has to cut a tree down off the road. I don't know how we do that, but that to me is the on-call stuff.
So can you describe that, Mark? And because I wasn't 100% clear when I read what you were asking for or how the on-call would work. But does your idea of the on-call, does it provide at least 5 days of staffing Monday through Friday, and then provide some level of emergency service or the on-call service for on the weekends?
Well, it was just for 4 days, but we were talking about fitting in the 5th day, and the on-call, what it calls for is anything that's available, like Scarlett's Playground. That's a cleanup, period, every day, no matter what. I've been doing it. Jake was on board for that. You come in, you clean it up in the morning before anybody gets there. The restrooms, that's going to be another issue we'll deal with. We can have people on staff, Monday through Friday easily. Change schedules around, everybody alternate. Weekends, there's being on call. Somebody's going to be there for whatever we get a call on. It doesn't always have to be an emergency. If somebody says there's a bunch of trash down in a park, that's what we're on call for. Take care of things like that, not just emergencies.
So I like Bob's idea. Why can't we stack, even if it's going to be 4 days or 5, why can't a person work Tuesday through Friday?
Yeah, and we've looked at that before, Monday through Thursday, Thursday through Sunday, just alternate around. I talked to the guys, and whatever you guys decide we can do, I think they're all on board, especially the 2 we interviewed. They're on board for on call, and I'm pretty sure they'd be on board for whatever we have to put out there.
So to me,
I mean, if we're making it, I'm going to say a change. I don't know if it's really a change, but if we're shifting the 4-day week to Sunday through, help me out, what is that? A Thursday? No, I don't know. Whatever it is, Sunday through Wednesday, I guess. And then the other one would be Thursday through Saturday, or whatever the days work out to be. I mean, the time to do it is when you have new folks in, so that way it's not like you're. And I'm not saying you're screwing anybody because the hours are the same, but anyway, that's
so. We have the union contract, though. I don't know if we're allowed to do that. Can we? Oh, sorry.
So let me just jump in here real quick. So currently, right now, we interviewed a few people. Out of the few people we interviewed, we had 2 that we really liked. So we're definitely going to be hiring one to replace Josh, I believe it was, that left. So with the additional hire that we're looking to get approved, Mark and I have talked, and I know he hasn't answered the question yet, but we will have 7-day coverage. So whether that person is working Wednesday through Saturday and the next person is working Sunday through Wednesday, we will have 7-day coverage with these 2 new people that are going to be joining. We'd like to come up with some sort of schedule where, maybe not the same person is working the weekends all the time, where maybe if we go 4 days or 5 days, it's still a tough schedule to set up, because you got to make sure that your pay ends on Saturday and then your new pay starts on Sunday. So we're looking at, Janet Bushy and I were looking at today was maybe you did 2 days on, 1 day off, 2 days on, 2 days off. So something like that to come up with something creative. But again, with this additional person, we will have coverage on Saturday and Sundays.
I just think it's certainly, Larry, in the summer or spring, summer, fall, that park over there is getting a lot busier now. And then, of course, we have the restrooms. I mean, I don't know if we've decided whether we're cleaning them or emptying trash out of them, or if that's being done by our services or whatever. And I know the ballparks get trashy, but they're supposed to be taking care of that themselves. But I think we have several areas now that could use that. And so I think that's great. I appreciate it.
Yep. And
Larry, on the
to answer Vanessa's question, Vanessa, the contract states there's a 4-day work week and there's also a 5-day work week. So they can either work hours, I think it's a 9.37 a day or 7.5 hours a day. And it's up to management how we set those schedules.
Oh, good. Okay, thank you.
On the paid on call, can we change that instead of calling it paid on call? Can we have it call on call maintenance so we don't get confused between maintenance and fire department? Or some other name other than paid on call?
The Sobel plan.
After
take my name out of it.
So Larry and Mark, let me ask a question on the 7 days coverage. Is there enough work that we want people working full days on Saturdays and Sundays? Or do we just want to have we need somebody to run out because whether we have a garbage problem or a tree fell or something. So truly more of the emergency on call. So I guess my question, maybe a rounded way, is saying, would it be better if maintenance staff went on a 5-day work week and then you had the flexibility to put them so that handles the vast majority of all the township properties with the exception of 2 days for the library and the parks. And then we had some kind of flexible schedule for Saturdays and Sundays to provide coverage when needed.
Hearing from Emily and talking with the Parks and Recs folks, I think there is enough work to have somebody work a full day on Saturday and Sunday. I would like to make the proposal to have 7-day. If we see that we do not need it, then we can always move in a different direction. But I'd rather start off with the 7-day and move backwards rather than starting with a 5-day and trying to push forward to a 7-day.
I suppose there's routine maintenance that
right.
I'll say easy stuff, but I don't know the right word, that could be shifted to weekends, cleaning gutters and caulking windows or stuff that's just routine things. It might be easier to do than during the week when everybody's around pulling you in different directions.
Yeah. Painting, stuff like that, yeah.
As long as it could be done, Mark, where you're not having to supervise people 7 days a week.
Right. Agreed.
So that's somehow you've got to be able to make sure that the folks you have confidence in, that they've got to schedule what they're going to do Saturday and Sunday or whatever days you're not working so that you're not getting sucked in.
Yeah, and I'll have a schedule of work, to be performed. I always keep a list of things we need to do. So I'm sure I could hand some out, and painting's an easy one. If something happens, at least we have somebody there.
And the weekends would rotate?
Yeah.
So not, okay.
So
do we need
I'd like to go back to, I believe, Georgia, was you that asked about the dollar rate.
Yep.
So currently, right now, the way that the contract's set up is that a level 1 employee on probation that comes in is at $16.24 an hour. After the probation period, they would go to $17.48 an hour. In the description grade levels, level 1 is clerical administrator and assistant to maintenance. Level 2 is secretaries, assessing clerk, maintenance, planning aide, assistant to treasurer, assistant to finance. So level 3, of course, is assistant to planning director. There's 3 different levels. So I did not do this contract, but being a new set of eyes looking at this contract, when I looked at it, I read it as an assistant to maintenance is exactly that. That is somebody that would assist Mark when Mark went out to do a job. So Mark's out, he needs help, somebody's going to assist him. To me, in level 2, it says maintenance. To me, level 2 is a maintenance person that can go out and do the job on their own. Meaning that once they get off probation, once Mark feels they're comfortable, he's comfortable with that person to go out and do jobs on their own. They are now a maintenance person, not an assistant. So to me, they should go to a level 2, which would be $18.56 an hour.
So is that, Larry, is that for the person that's replacing Jake? Or is that also for the person replacing Jake and the new person? Or the person replacing, meaning are you looking for 2 level 2s or 1 level 1 and 1 level 2?
No, I'm looking for that anybody that is in the maintenance department that is able to go out and perform the job as a maintenance person would be a level 2 employee.
And so these 2 guys you've interviewed, you think fill that bill? But you could turn them loose and they don't have to be.
Well, I'm not saying that. And what I'm saying is that once Mark's, so again, I see this over a year before they would even have that opportunity. But I also see the current employee that we have there working as well too, having this opportunity. Again, once they're able to conduct a job that Mark can say, this is what you're doing. Saturday, he leaves them a list that they're working by themselves. They are a maintenance person. And the way that I read it, being new eyes at this, that is a level 2 position.
The positions currently, they're level 1 right now. The maintenance team
Correct.
under Mark right now is a level 1.
Yes.
Okay. So you're recommending they be a level 2 along with the new team members that come in.
I think he's recommending that they have the ability, and I'll call it promoted to a level 2. Is that sort of what you're saying, Larry? That's how I heard it.
So yeah, what I'm saying is that, again, they come in as an assistant to maintenance. And once Mark feels that they're no longer an assistant, that they're a maintenance person, they're able to be, in this by the contract, level 2 maintenance.
So essentially, it's the starting probation period is at the same level as a level 1. Level 1 and level 2 look to be the same during the probation.
Yeah.
And then if they get out of the probation, they're doing their own work on their own, and then they're at a level 2. So I would keep them at a level 2, but keep that probation period.
Yes.
Contract.
So they would be 6 months. And then again, I don't.
Just to keep it clean within the contract, I think that would make sense.
So
right.
So is there the possibility that someone after 6 months, Mark may say, you know, we really thought this guy would progress. He's not there. So he would stay at a level 1 after the 6 months?
Yeah, I mean, probation is 6 months. So after probation, they're going to go into level 1. If they get off, you can always extend probation as well too. But so after probation, they go to level 1. And then I would say it'd be a few months or so before Mark is comfortable. I don't expect anybody to go from probation to level 2. They should go probation, level 1 for some time, and then move to level 2.
So I'm fine with that.
I think
1856, 40 hours a week, 52 weeks a year is $38,600 a year.
I think we want level 2s. I think if we bring somebody in and through the probationary period, Mark thinks he's not level 2 material, then
we should be cutting them loose.
I think we cut him loose and we find somebody else who is level 2 material.
Correct. I would agree with that.
Yeah, an evaluation. Yeah, that's.
I would promote it at a level 2 and keep it at a level 2 as much as possible. But I would like to see the different job descriptions. We have to have a job description for each one. I would be interested to see what the technical difference is between the two. So maybe we can clarify that up once
So I didn't see any job descriptions in the contract. So I don't know where those are at. I don't know if HR has it. I can talk to Janet tomorrow and find out.
Yeah. No rush.
They're in the same drawer with the employee evaluations, Larry.
Right.
Okay. I gotta go to a different room for that.
No. So Larry, this isn't going to open up the contract for any reason, is it?
I don't see why it should.
Okay.
Okay.
We're just hiring maintenance instead of assistant to maintenance.
Yeah.
Okay.
You just have to, when you hire, my understanding is when you advertise, you have to advertise for what the level the position is.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you want a level 1, you have to hire a level 1. If you want a level 2, you need to advertise and hire a level 2.
Which we did.
So Larry, do you want to make a motion now that we've gone through all of this?
Yeah, so I would like to make a motion for the maintenance department to be able to hire their 4th personnel. Well, hang on, scratch the motion. The on-call system, did we talk about that? Are we all comfortable with that?
Let's do it 2 separate things.
Yeah, I think let's
So
do the hiring and then the.
Okay, so I'd like to make a motion that we approve to hire an additional person for the maintenance department.
What level?
Oh, hire level 1 assistance to maintenance for the maintenance department with
support.
Pardon?
Support.
So, but are we hiring one or hiring? So we're replacing Jake, which doesn't
That's
need
done.
a motion.
And one more.
And then one incremental. Okay.
Right, yeah, so this is for the incremental. We're not making a motion to replace Jake because we're good there already.
Were you gonna say something else in your motion, Larry?
I'll do the level 1 and level 2. I don't even have to do that, so that's my motion.
So we're hiring it at a level 1.
Correct.
I'm sorry, I'm confused. I thought we were doing it too. Okay. I'm fine with 1. If you guys, I'll trust whatever you guys want to do.
They can get promoted to level 2.
After probation?
After probation, yep.
But it's the same pay either way. Don't you have to advertise based on what the position is?
It's not the same pay. So
In probation period, I thought it
In
was.
probation,
And
yeah.
during probation, it is.
So Vanessa, so we're hiring a level 1. That level 1 will be on probation for 6 months. When they get off probation, they will be at level 1. Once Mark feels comfortable to allow that person to go out and do jobs on their own, then he can promote them to a level 2.
Okay, so not necessarily after 6 months. Then.
Correct.
Okay.
Do not expect
All right.
anybody to get off probation and go right to level 2.
So just so I'm, forgive me, Larry, but just so I'm clear. So this motion is to hire, but also since we don't have a classification or job description for maintenance, we'll need that so that if Mark wants to promote somebody to level 2, we've actually got a job description that says, here's the difference between a level 1 and level 2. You can get promoted, but we can do that at a later time.
Yes. Yes. Any other discussion?
I hope not.
Okay, roll call vote.
Gray,
Aye.
Burkheiser,
Aye.
Creech, aye. Phillips,
Aye.
Weber,
Aye.
Magner,
Aye.
Sobel,
Aye.
motion carried.
All right.
Okay, Mark, you want to go with the paid on call or the on-call system?
Yeah, Larry, Dave Scott brought it up a while ago for me to come up with something, and Larry and I went around and we talked about things, and we figured $20 a day plus time work would be fair enough. There's emergencies, or we have more emergencies in the winter, I feel, than we do in the summer. But I think it's fair when they come, if they're on call, it's $20 a day and whatever time they work.
So
You're saying $20 is just, okay, today your person A is on call, so they're gonna get a flat $20. If they get no calls, they don't get cut out. If they don't get called out at all, if they do, they're going to get their level, whatever their actual hourly rate plus the $20.
Yes.
And
So
maybe overtime, right?
the $20 pay per day would be just for the inconvenience. They're the only department besides myself and Molly and Melissa that are on call, that they're recommended to be home. So this $20 would be, so they're in the area or at home. They're not doing, out drinking or anything like that. So an emergency arises, that they can go out and take care of that. So yes, it'd be $20 a day, and it would start whenever the shift ended.
So Mark, is this something like we're going to get I'll say a township phone, so that way, no matter anywhere that needs it, we have one number we call and they hand the phone off? Is it the plan like you're on call this week, and somebody else is on call the next week, and so forth?
Well,
have you thought about that?
we have, and it's, I would make sure all departments and everybody knows who's on call that certain week. We want to do it, we're thinking do it per week. And then who's ever on call, each department will know who's going to be on call for that week. That's who they call.
Well,
but that's a good idea with one phone.
Yeah, I'm thinking one phone, because then you can post that number. I mean, at some point, I hope the Richardson Center opens up, and, you know, or the library, you know, they can just call the one number, and
right.
That's the guy on call. He's getting paid to be around, so you can come in and reset an alarm or whatever the heck it might be.
Right.
So, and then if they get called in, is it a minimum hours, or if they come in, they're going to get paid? You know,
No,
comes in and reset an alarm and it's 10 minutes. I mean, were you paying them 1 hour, or I don't know how we do that.
Well, you know, we haven't even thought about a 10-minute job because it takes time to get there and everything. So I would say just to set an alarm, yeah, an hour.
So Mark, I have a request for you. And Larry, I like the concept. I think we need a little more detail to some of these points. So if they get the call, the clock start as soon as they get the call, they leave home. If it's 20 minutes to drive, what if they're an hour away? I mean, I'd like to have some written guidelines for this.
Yeah, I thought within a 30-minute time span, they have to be there, have to answer it, you know, 30 minutes or less.
Because I know the fire chief is on here. Chief Dundas, what is there, like, there's a minimum on the fire department. Is it 2 hours?
1
hour?
Yep.
Larry's right. It's 1 hour for the paid on call.
So obviously that would be a fair, if they have to go on a call, that they get paid a minimum of 1 hour.
Correct.
But this is just for evening because we're going to have 7 people or 7 days a week. So every day, just from 5 to midnight, or I guess overnight too, they'd get $20 every day.
Mm-hmm.
Not just Saturday and Sunday. Okay. Because from reading this, it sounds like just Saturday and Sunday is how I was reading it, but okay.
Yep. No, so hey, Rick, no, we wouldn't start paying them when they left their house. When they get to the building, jump in a Commerce truck or open the door, jump in a Commerce vehicle, that's when the clock starts.
So, okay, but we need to, as someone who's been experience with lots of union complaints and stuff, whatever, this needs to be, because these are union guys.
Okay.
That you will need to have, you should need to have something in writing so that we can try to avoid grievances and all the hard feelings of, you know, from something with a new position.
Okay, we will come back next month with that.
Yeah, think about the phone. I like one number anyway. And then the other, Rick, are you thinking like a minimum they'll get, whether it's a minimum of 1 hour for something that took 10 to 15 minutes, which I'm okay with, or you're looking at a minimum of 2 hours, and if it's longer, then you're getting paid per the hour? What are you thinking?
Oh yeah, I can work with Larry on this. The other thing someone mentioned, I think we need to talk to Janet, is this could also be create overtime. So if they already have 40 hours in, you know, by law, they're going to now get overtime too.
They get that now though, Rick.
No, I understand, but it's not, the $20 is probably a flat fee, but let's say it's so, I don't know if there's any rules, regulations as far as when the starting point is. So it's just, we have a few more questions. I think we should be able to hash this out pretty quick.
Okay. Well, Mark, are you comfortable with working on that document you have on the on-call and bringing it back to the township board?
Yep, I can do that. Okay. I have something ready for them.
If you want help, Mark, let me, or Larry, if you want help, just let me know. I'll be glad to help you out.
Yep.
I'd appreciate that. Yeah, if you have any ideas, anybody's help.
Okay. Mark, anything else?
No, that's it.
All right. Okay. Well, thanks everybody for that. Appreciate it. It will definitely help our.
Thank you all.
Thanks, Mark.
Okay. Next up is the demolition of structure at 3400 Union Lake Road. Jay James.
Yeah, so the township acquired this property a couple of years ago, I believe, and no one's been living in it for at least the last year. I know we've had some issues with some maintenance that Mark and his guys have gone over and taken care of. So we've gone out and gotten a couple bids to demo that house. We received 2 bids, one from RJ Hoffman at $7,858 and one from Milford Salvage for $8,998. Both companies do probably 98% of the demos in this township, and they're both qualified to do it. I would recommend that we go with RJ Hoffman, have them do it. I wouldn't expect that they'll get to it too quick with the weather being the way it is. But I do also request that we do put some contingency in there. Sometimes with these old homes, you never know what you're going to find with the footings. So I did ask in my letter that we go up to an amount not to exceed $10,000. I'm assuming everyone knows where this building's at. It's on west side of Union Lake Road, right across from Eldora. It sits pretty out close towards the road. It's been an ordinance issue for us for several years. So it'd be nice to get this one taken care of.
Are we gonna have, because it is so close to the road, are we gonna have like the police department or the fire department or something? Is there any way they can do this without, I think, have to block one lane of traffic?
No, I don't think they'll have to block any traffic at all, because luckily it's on the corner with Dickert, so they'll be able to get the machinery in from the Dickert side. They'll be able to knock the walls in, and then they'll be able to haul it back out right off of Dickert. So they shouldn't block any traffic on Union Lake Road.
All right, I'll move approval to award the contract to RJ Hoffman in an amount not to exceed, you said 10,000?
Yes, please.
Not to exceed $10,000 with the money to come from, I guess, building and improvement. I'm not sure which fund this would come from. General fund? How about general fund?
General fund.
So it should probably come from building and improvement.
Building, okay, that was my first guess. Building improvement.
Support.
So real quick, Jay, are all the stuff turned off? Is gas, electric? Is there anything?
Yep. No, I believe they're all turned off. I think we're good to go.
Okay.
Any other discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Tovall,
Aye.
Creech, aye. Phillips,
Aye.
Weber,
Aye.
Burkheiser,
Aye.
Magner,
Can you not hear me?
no,
No.
Oh,
There you go.
sorry, aye.
Gray.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Jay, thank you for your work on that. Okay, moving on to new business. Hey, Jay James, you again. Township Hall, HM blinds installation.
Yeah, so you guys might recall, this has been an issue since the building was built, particularly in the spring. The sun comes up at such an angle that it comes through the south atrium windows, and has been a large annoyance to the planning department and the building department, to the point where sometimes we have to wear sunglasses when we're helping people. We tried to correct this several years ago by tinting the windows and putting the tinting plastic on them. But the heat that's created up there has bubbled the tinting to where I believe 3 of them have no tinting anymore at all. We had to remove it. And the others are starting to bubble up. So with the plexiglass barriers we now have, I'm really worried that come springtime, the sun's going to start reflecting back not only at the other departments, but at the residents that are at our counter. So we'd looked at putting up blinds before, but we didn't think we'd have to go to that step. So I think that's what we need to do at this point. We've gotten a couple of bids from 2 different blind shops. The shear shop for manual blinds is just over 7,000. We did ask them for a quote to do motorized blinds, which was just over 10,000. We would have to run electrical separately to get up there to do that. And realistically, we're gonna move these blinds maybe once a year, twice a year. So I don't think we need to do that. The other bid came from Time for Blinds, and that was slightly over $8,000. Both of these bids include the cost to bring in a lift to get in there and put the blinds up. I would ask them if whoever we award it to, that they come in and do it on a Friday, obviously, so we don't impact anybody during the work week. So with that said, I would recommend that we go with the shear shop at an amount of $7,074.
So I'll make a motion to authorize the award the contract to the shear shop for a different amount though, for $6,674.
No sales tax.
Correct.
So we're gonna get fixed blinds then, Jay? They won't be movable, they'll just be up there?
Well, they'll be up there. If we wanted to, we could get a ladder up there with a pole and move them, take them up or down. But
Because it says fixed panels, it doesn't say,
they're fixed blinds, so it's similar, kind of similar to the ones we have in our offices now. You can roll them down, you can roll them up, but they're fixed as in place. So they are movable as far as if we wanted to roll them up, but I don't see us doing that, to be honest with you.
okay.
And you feel these are going to take care of the issue?
I'm sorry?
You feel that these are going to take care of the sun issue?
Yes, they should take care of the issue. I have a sample. They give us samples of the blinds. They're, I think it's 1% blocking. So this should take care of the issue. I don't see this being a problem after this.
And they won't make it too dark, like we don't have any sun?
No, well, we still have the other window with light coming in. So no, it's not going to be pitch dark in there. That I'm sure of.
So what'd you do? Take tax off? Is that what I'm figuring out now?
Correct. Yeah, 6674. Correct.
Okay.
Support.
I got you, Rick. Okay.
So motion civil support by Weber. Any other discussion? Okay, roll call vote, please.
Sobel,
Aye.
Weber,
Aye.
Phillips,
Aye.
Creech, aye. Burkheiser,
Aye.
Magner,
Aye.
Gray.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you, Jay. Okay, next up, the reserve at Crystal Lake PUD. Mr. Campbell, are you going to start off with this?
I'll take a shot at introducing this one, although this is one that the board has seen before, similar to the Pulte project we saw earlier tonight. This is a project that came in front of the board back in October in the context of the brownfield financing that the developers are including as part of this project. The developers are Andy Milia and Gary Jonah through their company Commerce Investment LLC. And what they're proposing to do is to develop the westernmost of the 3 Sleeth Road gravel pit properties, which is a 160-acre property with about a 40-acre man-made lake on it. And they would like to develop that property with 203 single-family homes, including lakefront homes that would surround the man-made lake and inland homes on the eastern and northeastern portion of the property. The project would have one point of public access on the north side of Sleeth Road. There would be a secondary emergency response drive off of Sleeth Road. And then there would also be a stub road at the easterly property line of the subject property, such that when the adjacent gravel pit properties someday were to be developed, whatever develops on those properties could be interconnected with the roadway system for the project that's being proposed here this evening. There's 2 significant components to this project. One is the brownfield financing component, which the board has already taken preliminary action on back in October when the board passed a resolution of support for the brownfield that defined the basic parameters of the brownfield financing. And the other major component is what the board is considering this evening, which is that the project is being proposed as a planned unit development, or a PUD. The reason the developers and the staff and the consultants all agreed that pursuing this project as a PUD is in part because of the complexities that are involved in this project and the certain degree of partnership involved between the developer and the township to make a project like this be able to come to fruition. And also because of the way the property is zoned, which is R1A, that allows only for single family lots of 20,000 square feet in area and 100 feet of frontage. And what the developer is proposing is a variety of lot sizes, which are smaller than the 20,000 square foot minimums, but also at a density that is consistent with what the property is zoned for. So when the developer is proposing 203 single family units, that's consistent with the R1A zoning of the property with respect to density. So in turn of not providing 20,000 square foot lots, they're instead using that land for additional green space and open space around the property, and particularly around the perimeter of the property to create a buffer between the development that they're proposing and the existing single family neighborhoods that surround it on the north and on the west sides, and on the opposite side of on the south side of Sleeth. To get this project to come to fruition, one of the major components is to service it with municipal water and sanitary sewer, which requires extending both of those utilities about 1.5 miles from the east all the way to the subject property. And in the case of the municipal water, actually taking the water main all the way to the westerly property line of the subject property, so that the township could then, consistent with the township's water and sewer master plan, take that water main and loop it all the way around Lake Sherwood and hook the water main back up with where it currently dead ends along East Commerce Road on the north side of Lake Sherwood. And as part of that, the developer would be obligated to upsize their water main to a bigger size than what would be necessary just to service their project, but to upsize it so that it could be looped all the way around Lake Sherwood. The extension of the water and sewer is an off-site project. It would be running over 1 mile off of their property. And so the developer would be funding that off-site improvement. And then that funding would be reimbursed through the brownfield program over a 20-year term. The development would fund the project. The developer is going to want to have a conversation at a later point with the township board about who manages that offsite improvement project. But regardless, it will be funded by the developer. And it's that offsite improvement that's a major component of the PUD process, which includes a PUD agreement and a PUD plan. So procedurally, the PUD agreement and the PUD plan have gone in front of the Planning Commission for a public hearing at their meeting back on February 1st. The Planning Commission unanimously recommended approval. So now the developer proceeds to the Township Board this evening, where the Township Board has an opportunity to consider, and if they so choose, take action on the PUD agreement and the PUD plan. If the Township Board opts to approve the PUD agreement and the PUD plan, then the developer would have to come back to the Planning Commission with a fully developed site plan consistent with the development plan that the board is seeing this evening. And because it's a site condominium, the condominium site plan would have to go in front of the Planning Commission and come back to the Township Board at a later date, comparable to what Pulte had to do this evening, where because their project was a condominium, it still had to come back to the Township Board. The developer is here on their own behalf, along with their development team, and they, I know, want to make a presentation to the Township Board, understanding again that the board has seen this project before. And I'm happy to answer any questions the board may have. I can pull up a copy of the development plan if anyone wants to see it, or any of the other exhibits and materials that are part of this PUD agreement. There's obviously a lot of layers and complexities to this project, so I can go into detail on any of those components if anyone wishes. Otherwise, we can turn it over to the development team so that they can make their presentation.
George, were there any major comments from the planning, from the members on planning?
I think we can let's let Mr. Milia and Mr. Jonah go through, and then we can I'll give a quick overview.
Okay. Okay.
Would you like me to present, Mr. Gray?
Who's presenting?
Who's presenting?
There we go.
Thank you. Thank you, members of the board. We're pleased to be in front of you this evening. As Mr. Campbell suggested, we were in front of you later part of last year talking about the brownfield. This is the next component from that. Since we've gotten the resolution on the brownfield, we've been moving forward with the Oakland County Brownfield Authority and the Land Bank Authority, and we're progressing on that. We've simultaneously been working on this side of it, where we've been working with your staff, your consultants, and our own development team. So we're very pleased to present this development tonight. As Mr. Campbell indicated, this was very well received at the Planning Commission and unanimously approved there. Normally, we would meet with the neighboring residents for a development such as this. Due to COVID, we were not able to do that, but on our own accord, we did post a development sign on the property. We sent letters to all the neighbors in addition to the fact that it was a public hearing held. We actually got fairly favorable response, not a lot of opposition. We got some support letters. Mr. Campbell was kind enough to give out my cell phone to some of those residents, and I got calls over the weekend, so I was able to handle those calls as well. So we're coming forth with a very collaborative effort and working well with your township over the past 2 years since we've been working on it. The developer is a joint venture with Whitehall and our company. Gary Jones is the principal of Whitehall. He's on the phone as well tonight. Between our two firms, we've done over 70 developments in metropolitan Detroit, including over 40 residential subdivisions of smaller size, larger size, and comparable size to this. So we're very experienced in this type of work and work with a lot of the national builders and the top local builders. Our civil engineering and geotech firm is PEA. John Thompson, a principal with PEA, is on the call tonight and can answer any technical questions that you might have. PM Environmental is our environmental consultant. We've been working closely with them through the environmental issues and the brownfield issues. They're not on the call, but they were present. You got to meet Jessica DeBone and a couple of your last calls. King and McGregor, which is now Bar Environmental, has been working with us on our wetland issues. And Siebert Kahn is our law firm. I'd like to thank Mr. Rentrop and his firm, as well as Mr. Campbell. We've worked very closely over Christmas time and over the month of January to put together a very comprehensive PUD development agreement. A lot of discussion on that, multiple drafts, and we're pleased that we're able to come to a collaborative effort and have an agreement that was presented to the Planning Commission last week as well. So it's part of our development objectives. We have 5 primary development objectives. Really, when we look at developments in any communities, but especially in this community, develop a first-class, low-density, single-family residential home to community that meets the housing needs of the current residents and meets the needs of our residents, future residents moving into the community. The thought was to get away from just developing homogeneous products of just developing every lot the same size. We have found in other developments, it's kind of a phenomenon going in the country now, that when you develop large subdivisions of all the same size homes, they have a very difficult time on a resale basis. There's a lot of competition, and if somebody wants to downsize or upsize within a community, they have to generally move out of the community and move out of the neighborhood, and often have to move out of the community. So this has been developed with a lot of careful forethought and sight of developing several price points within the development, different size lots, different size homes, lakefront homes, non-lakefront homes, but at the same time meeting the overall low density that this is zoned for. So we're pleased with the overall site plan. We'll go through that in a little bit greater detail. To develop the property in an environmentally sensitive manner, both to remove the contamination on the property, but to preserve the natural buffers that are surrounding the property and to enhance those buffers. You'll see when we get to the site plan, the majority of the lots either back up to a lake, or they back up to a park area, or they back up to a buffer area. And at the same time, we're able to buffer all the neighboring subdivisions as well. So we're pleased with that. And we're providing an extension of the municipal sewer and water services, not only to this development, but extending for other residents to the west and north of us. You may recall some of our early on discussions where we're doing this on an SAD basis, and that didn't work for a number of reasons, and now ultimately we're bearing the entire upfront cost of that without any bond funding from the township. As we discussed, the brownfield approved that. And then we're providing public benefits to the community, including cleaning up of a contaminated and blighted site. Some of you that have history with the property know that there's potential safety concerns with children biking in this area, going in the area, and basically being in an unsupervised gravel pit area. We feel that the new development is not only cleaner, but is a much safer environment and a good addition to the community. This is the subject property. It's on the north side of Sleeth Road, just east of Wixom Road. It's 160 acres. Approximately 40 acres is a man-made lake, a formal gravel pit. Here's more of a close-up of it. You can see there's 2 lakes to the east. That's not part of this property. This is the westernmost 160 acres. To the right side of our property, the east side where you see the scarred soil, that's really the overburden from digging the lake. There's about 1 million cubic yards of overburden on the site that would have to be regraded and part of the design. That was one of the major impetus for Oakland County and the state considering this as a land bank to do the functional obsolescence of the site. When gravel pits are built now, they're built to much higher standards, and they're built with future development in mind, and they're built with reclamation plans. This was just a poorly done job, decades ago, and the township has the remnants of this. Our plan will clean this up to a beautifully designed residential community that will be shared by 203 new families. The lake itself is actually beautiful. We named it Crystal Lake because it's crystal clear, 30 feet in some spots, and we think it'll be a great amenity to this project. Here's an aerial view of it. It's, as I said, crystal clear. You're looking at it from the south. The property is on the north side of Sleeth Road. We would be maintaining a buffer on the south side of the property, which is the north side of Sleeth Road, maintaining a very significant buffer on the west side, which is the left, on the north side, and on the east side as well. And where there's many of the natural trees, we would preserve as many of those as we can. And where there's some vacant spots, we would enhance those when we submit a formal landscape plan. So a very significant buffer. It's property is designed to be self-contained from a traffic standpoint. No traffic would be going to adjacent subdivisions other than the future subdivision in the east, and that would be planned together. This is the western boundary of the property. This was taken towards the end of October. The majority of this would stay. We'd keep a very significant buffer. The largest buffer would be on this west side. And we would also have the addition of a retaining wall and able to preserve the root system of those trees. So a lot of thought went into the site design of this project. This is the site plan. Kelly, if you can go to the next one, the color one. This is a better illustration of it. Each color represents a different product size. The yellow lots are 60-foot lots. The purple lots are 83-foot lots. The blue, orange, and pink are all 105-foot lots. But the orange ones are very large in depth. Those are up to 190 feet deep. All the lots are 105 feet deep. We originally proposed them as 100 foot, but to ensure a side entry garage and to allow for flexibility design, we actually made those home sites larger. So we have 3 different lot sizes and 5 different product types because we anticipate a 105-foot lot on the lake would garner a larger or higher price point home than the 105-foot interior. But it's designed that people can move into the community and they're, these obviously are not starter homes. These would be second and third homes for somebody moving into one of the yellow lots, but they can upsize within the community without moving out of the neighborhood. They can downsize within the community once they outgrow a larger home in the area. We believe that it'll attract many new families to the community. You can notice from all the green, the significant amount of buffer area on all four sides. One of the comments from the Planning Commission at the first work study session that we had last year was to ensure we had buffer on all four sides. So we've shrunk it in, we've lost some lots to do that, but maintaining that buffer area. Additionally, the lots that are back up to the lake are obviously all great lots, but all the other non-lake lots are great lots as well because they back up to a park area, a green space, with the exception of a few of the yellow lots which back onto each other. The majority of the lots back onto a treed park or buffer area. As Mr. Campbell suggested, there are 2 points of entry, one main entry on Sleeth Road on the east side with a roundabout. The second entry would be restricted to emergency access only. And then there's a stub road at the northeast corner as well. But other than that, it's self-contained. The traffic would not be flowing from this development through Lake Sherwood or to the lots to the west and vice versa. Nobody would be cutting through this development to get onto Sleeth Road. One of the recommendations I believe Mr. Weber made it at the Planning Commission was to include in the motion that a passing lane be considered. The township conducted a traffic study for the property. That was one of their recommendations that was included in the motion, and we are agreeable to that and believe that a passing lane should be incorporated here. Other than that, there are no other significant traffic impacts from this. The level of service from the other intersections east and west of here would not be negatively impacted. There will be an increase in traffic, but there would not be negatively impacted in terms of the technical level of service. And perhaps Mr. Campbell could answer that further if there's questions on that, or our engineer, John Thompson, could answer that. So we've worked, very carefully with your engineers, your consultants, our staff, and we're very pleased with this development. Kelly, next slide. This is not a formal landscape plan, but we did do a tree plan to show you the significant amount of trees that would be on it in terms of mandatory street trees on each lot, as well as an enhancement of the buffer areas. A more formal landscape plan will be submitted at the site plan level in addition to the landscape plan for the common area. But we wanted to show you the significant landscaping and trees that would go on the property. There'd be sidewalks on both sides of the interior roads. And we would also be either a sidewalk on the entire frontage of Sleeth Road, or one of the things that we've discussed with Mr. Campbell, if the township felt that the sidewalk would be better on the south side of the road, we would donate those dollars that we would normally have put into our sidewalk, put it into the township sidewalk fund for the township to use it at its discretion in that location. This study is a little bit hard to read, but if you look at the aerial photo at the top of the aerial photos, if you can see faintly the letters A, E, B, C, and D, what those are is we've studied the points of where our north property is bounded by the southern property. We did receive a couple calls from some of the neighbors wanting to understand how the height of their of the new homes would affect the height of their homes. We understand that they're used to looking out on a wooded area and a vacant area, and development is usually not always welcomed by neighbors, but we've tried to be very sensitive and a collaborative basis with them. I've spoken with many of them, and we did this study. And if you look at the top of this photo, section D, that graphic depicts the northeast corner that we've labeled section D. And what it shows on the left is that existing home on Ravenwood Drive, that person's backyard, our open space buffer area with trees, our setback, and then our tree, and then our home. So you can see that the height of these homes is consistent with the height of the surrounding neighborhoods, and there will be a buffer area in between. And then, based on this study, we haven't had a lot of, or at least we haven't seen a lot of opposition to this. Kelly, if you can go to the next slide. This is the four more areas, section A, B, E, and C. And you can see in section A, there's a much larger buffer area, over 112 feet. The height of the new homes are consistent with the other homes. In the area of section B, there's still going to be the preservation of some existing grade and trees, and our new home is actually lower than theirs. Same in section E, the home is lower. And section C has the home slightly higher, but it's still a buffer area. So this area got impacted the most, but we're still pleased that the buffer area was able to accommodate this. Our design elements we talked about significantly, so I don't want to be repetitive, but these are our lot sizes. The 203 total lots on 159 acres equals a density of only 1.2 units per acre, which is a very low density. And we're able to, rather than build 200-foot deep lots, put that into common area parks rather than put it into somebody else's specific lot. We're finding now that people, although they're spending more time at home, don't want to be mowing half-acre lawns. We're better off having their quarter-acre home on the back of a park that everybody can share. So it's the PUD concept has been widely used and I think is designed for properties like this. We've been involved in 40-some subdivisions. I think of those 40 subdivisions, 35 of them have been PUDs because it makes a better use of the land and more conservation of the land. The four elements that were suggested by the Planning Commission at the work study session in 2019 were adding the buffer areas. We actually had an original plan of 232 lots. The Planning Commission wanted us to cut down on that, make some of the lots bigger. We agreed to that request and we're pleased that when we presented this at the meeting last week, it was well received and unanimously approved. We've added more park area and we've increased the lot sizes to allow for the larger lots. And so we moved the 80 foot to 83 feet and the 100 foot to 105 feet and some of the lake lots to a depth of 190 feet. Public benefits, we discussed cleaning up the environmentally contaminated site, the extension of the municipal sewer and water system, preservation of the natural forest areas, and the creation of walking paths to service other township residents. I'll talk quickly about the sewer and water extension, then we'll wrap this up. The blue line, the blue square to the left is our property. This shows a small cutout, but that small cutout is included in that. It's an entire square. And what the orange indicates is the sanitary sewer extension that would be coming from the east and would be coming all the way to our property, about 3/4 of the way across, and then it would require a pump station as well. So it would benefit our development, future developments along the south side of Sleeth Road. And if the property to the east ever developed, they would tap into that as well. The township has significant capacity and it would be collecting usage charges, as soon as the first person moved in. So it benefits the township in that way. Again, this is being funded all out of pocket up front by our group. The water is a little bit more intense. As you notice, we're bringing the water across the entire development, our entire frontage. That's not needed by our group because we would normally bring it to the east side of our development and loop it through. But that was one of the negotiated items that your engineers requested, your staff requested, that we bring a 20-inch water main, not only to service the property, but bring it all the way across our development for the benefit of future residents. That's at a very significant cost, but it was part of what we agreed to in the brownfield negotiations. This would be all installed initially before the project was done, so that would be up and serviceable before the infrastructure was built on the interior basis. So that's our presentation. We have appreciated working with your your staff, your consultants, this group, as well as your planning commission, and look forward to any questions that you might have.
I have a couple. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Any boats on this lake? I see a dock and I won't say beach, but whatever. Yeah, dock, beach, park, clubhouse. So are those lake houses having boats? I didn't see anything, and maybe it's not something that's controlled in the PUD as far as, I'll say, what can be on the lake, whether it's a certain size, certain horsepower. How is that something that's defined in the PUD?
Yes, you bring up a good point. I failed to talk about this amenity in my consideration of everybody's time. You can see at the north edge of the roundabout, we have a 300-foot beach area. This would be a freshly groomed, graded beach that goes right down to the lake level. This would be available to all the residents within this community. That would be a public feature. All of the lake lots, the approximately 50 lake lots that front the lake, would be permitted a dock on their lake. We would have a public dock in the park area where residents could launch a small boat or a kayak or canoe. So we view this as a very significant amenity, a very important recreational amenity for people. The PUD talks about it very specifically, that there would be no gas-powered engines on the lake. And Mr. Rentrop was very shrewd in pointing out that a lot of the electric motors today can be very powerful. So we've agreed to basically it's a no-wake lake and a 10-mile-an-hour maximum. So this wouldn't be a jet skiing water skiing lake. It'd be a very serene, passive lake, but there would be recreational boats permitted on it.
And then the other is, I mean, it might be hard to predict, but is the water sewer something that as part of the infrastructure would go in first? When is that in the project? Do you know that?
The water and sewer extension would be the first thing to be built. We wouldn't do any interior improvements. Maybe we'd move some dirt, but we wouldn't do any interior infrastructure until the water and sewer was designed, built, inspected, and ready to go. And at that point, then we'd start the roads and sewer on the interior basis.
And I'm just curious on and maybe I misread it, but on the water, it showed 7,300 feet, yet that went all the way past the property. And the other one was sewer at 9,300 or something. Is that actually reversed or is that accurate?
No, and
they looked like they started at the same spot is what I was getting at.
Is Jason Meyer still on the call?
I believe he is, but Bob, the sewer actually would need to be picked up further east. So the sewer is actually a longer run than the water.
So on the sewer and the water, is this a project then that we as a township board will be handling and bidding out, and then the developers will be reimbursing or paying for the project?
The way the PUD agreement is written currently, the developer would fund the project and the township would control the contractor managing the project. The township would manage the project. The developer would like to have the option to come back to you in the near future if they're approved tonight and discuss the option of their controlling the project with their contractor, with the township's engineers having designed the project and the township's inspectors overseeing the project.
So that's a critical aspect for how I'm going to vote on this. What allows them to come back after we would approve this with the current wording?
If I could address that, it's currently set up that the township engineers are going to design it. The township engineers are going to inspect it, and the township has control over the contracting and overseeing it. The contract is in your hands, and we're paying everything. That's how it's set up. You have all the leverage. That's how the PUD is set up. We would like to study that further and potentially come back to you and request a modification to that. However, you can say no, and you have all the leverage and authority to do that the way the contract is set up right now. So we've given up any ability to mandate that, but we would just like a basis to come back and request it.
And
so Rick,
you trying to save money?
I guess I'll ask you, what are you thinking?
Yeah, you trying to say, are you trying to, are you thinking you can do it cheaper than us? Was that what you're looking for, to save some money?
I don't want to get off on too much of a tangent. I'd like to just address your question. You have all the power to do it. If we came back to you and said, this is why we want to do it, you could say no, and you have the right to do that.
Okay, all right, fair enough.
Several reasons. One is that anything, obviously you're going to design it, you're going to inspect it. The township is open 4 days a week. This type of construction is 6 day a week construction. A pipe crew on site is $5,000 an hour. A lot of times decisions need to be made on the spot. If a contractor has to go through more of a bureaucracy with the township, that would be a concern. Or we don't want the contractor calling up the township saying, I have a $50,000 change order, and township says, yeah, go ahead and do it, where we might be able to do it on a more economic basis. Any change order that would be required has to be approved by your engineers inspecting it anyway. So we think that, without any disrespect to the township or any government authority, that a development like this in our hands might be well managed. But again, you'll make that decision in the future, and this is not dependent upon that.
Okay, and I'd like to make sure I hear Hans say that he agrees with everything you just said.
I do, Rick. This was an issue that we discussed along the way, and we did insert language to that effect, indicating that all costs and fees associated with installing off-site sewer should be the developer's responsibility, and that the township shall engineer and inspect the off-site sewer construction at developer's expense. However, it also adds a contingency that says, prior to the design of the off-site sewer improvements, the township board shall determine whether the township or the developer shall be responsible for the construction of the improvements. So this was an issue that we didn't have full agreement upon at the time, but thought that it was something we could work at later as we move forward, and sort of looking to address. I mean, regardless of what happens, the developer is going to pick up the costs, and we're going to do the engineering.
Okay.
So whether we hold the paper, they hold the paper, is something that we agreed we would push off at that. There's something in it.
Fair enough. Thank you.
Andy, this is George Weber. One question I didn't capture in the at the Planning Commission was on the architectural and site design guidelines. And I know we still have to go through site plan approval, but a sensitive subject within the township, and I know within other members of the Planning Commission, is the use of vinyl siding. And in here, it states that there will be no vinyl siding on any of the homes within your pink and your orange area. So those items that surround the lake. Would you be amenable to continuing that to the blue and purple? So basically on your 60-foot lots, you'd be able to use vinyl siding. But on the other lots, it would be a cement-based product or a hardy plank.
This was an issue that we discussed, and we talked to several of our builders, and it's an issue that we studied very carefully. And what we, in addition to the limitations that we put on, we were very careful that on the vinyl product, it's just not your typical lap siding product. It would be it could be the scallop vinyl product. So the vinyl product today is very significantly improved of what people think of as vinyl or aluminum siding. We would consider it on the blue lots, so over half of the lots in the development would be restricted to vinyl, but I think it's an important component to keep it on the yellow and the purple. And this was fully disclosed in the PUD that was presented to the Planning Commission. But if that's an important consideration, we would consider it on the blue lots as well.
So for the rest of the board, there was Hans and I had a discussion after the planning commission. I was under the impression that as we go through this process, that this board would still have one opportunity to really look at this from a brownfield standpoint and be able to, weigh in yes or no with that. And that's not the case. So the board needs to know that if we approve this PUD tonight, that we're obligated as a township. So even though there will be further meetings with the county and with the state as it relates to the brownfield, based on the previous resolution that we approved in October, that we're now committed to this. So there's no other lever that we would have. So just want to make sure everybody understands that. And as a lot of you know, I've been fairly vocal on this, and from the finance side. So there are items with whether it's the discount rate or the amount of normal development costs that are being included in this that I don't agree with. Having said that, over the weekend, I've really wrestled with this project, and I think that the benefits to the township with this project outweigh the negatives. I think the benefits of getting water and sewer out to that area of the township, which while it's in our master plan, would be expensive and would not be happening for a number of years. I think there is a safety issue with this property. I'm very familiar with that property and the two lots to the east of it. I think there are traffic concerns, but none that I don't think can be solved in a reasonable way. I know that Supervisor Gray has concerns with impact on just added people within there and potential effects that it might have on the overall Crowd Lake area. But I do believe the benefits outweigh the negatives, in my opinion. Having said that, and I appreciate your comments, Andy, if it is going to be approved with a motion, at this point, I would put another condition on this as it relates to the use of vinyl siding for the blue and the purple. Understanding it was in the package with the Planning Commission, but I know I didn't see it, and I think other members might have missed that line in Exhibit G as well.
But you would get one more shot of the Planning Commission for the final PUD, and you could address it then, correct?
We will have another look at the site plan. So the PUD that ship has sailed with the Planning Commission.
Okay.
Yes, there would be site plan approval, but again, with the legalities associated with this project and as detailed as it is, I don't want there to be any surprises for the developers. So that I just as soon add that as a condition, unless Hans has some other words of wisdom on why that couldn't happen.
No, but I would like to clarify something that you said, George, and just accurately, but to clarify. There are really basically two aspects to this project. There is the financial aspect and there is the zoning aspect. The financial aspect involving the Brownfields project, which the Township Board has made a tentative agreement upon in October. And you will see a final Brownfield plan, but provided that plan is consistent with what the Brownfield resolution that was passed last year, you're going to be pretty much bound to it. The second aspect is the zoning part. At this point in time, the PUD has been approved recommended by the Planning Commission to you. It is now before you. I have provided you some criteria in your letter to consider in that process. It's not one of those things where all these have to be satisfied or one or whatever. It's just things for you to consider. When you do that, then you will, again, as George correctly points out, see a site plan and likely a condo plan. But again, because as long as those plans are consistent with what's in the PUD, they're pretty straightforward. So that's what I just wanted to kind of clarify, that there are basically two tracks going on here simultaneously. The first step on one, the finance has been done. This is the first step on the other one.
And while I still have concerns with the financial items that I mentioned before, I do want to point out that in the original documents that Mr. Milley and Mr. Jonah presented to the township, the development costs were 19.2, 19.3 million, and they did reduce that down to 18 million. So they did take off from what they were originally going to propose.
So George, you are looking for all the colors except for the yellow. The yellow you are okay with vinyl. All the other colors need to be some kind of cement composite board.
So what I'm going to, and maybe this is a good time to make a motion. I'm going to recommend that decision be kicked back to the Planning Commission during site plan approval, and that it not be mandated here within the PUD document. So at least then we'll have the collective wisdom of the Planning Commission to something that they can focus on, and then we as a commission would make that call at that time.
But then that's not consistent with what we would pass as a PUD. So it'll be inconsistent between the condo docs and the PUD docs, if I'm hearing Hans address that.
Dave, and maybe you can jump in as well. I'm trying to look at, I know the architectural and design guidelines, we have worked relentlessly on this project, so forgive me if I'm not quite on the top of it. But the Exhibit G to the agreement found on page 176 of the board packet discusses the architectural site guidelines. And I believe this is where we were talking about, specifically number B, exterior materials. Materials used should be consistent of the following materials: vinyl, hard plank, or similar siding, brick, stone elevations. Side rear elevation, all this, yeah. So it doesn't specifically say, at least in this provision, I don't believe it says in the agreement in general, which types of homes have which types of siding.
Hans, look at the next paragraph.
So
the last sentence on Exhibit G, paragraph B.
Okay, so for those homes which front Crystal Lake, no vinyl siding shall be printed on any non-stone material should be hard like any vinyl product shall include a combination of shake style. Look at G.
So what they're proposing is that if it's the lakefront, that there won't be any vinyl, but the other homes there are, and I think Mr. Milley confirmed that. So I'm just looking for the Planning Commission to have an opportunity to revisit that, and not make a decision here one way or the other, but have the collective wisdom of the Planning Commission review that and make that call during site plan.
And go ahead, Dave.
I think what Mr. Weber wants is for Mr. Milley to not be able to say, nope, this is the architectural guidelines that were approved as part of the PUD, and so we are under no obligation to make any changes when we come back to the Planning Commission for site plan approval. And I think Mr. Weber wants it built into the motion that the Planning Commission still has some discretion there.
So Hans and Dave, can we, as part of our motion, modify that to include the wording without it having to go back to the Planning Commission?
Yes.
Well, the Planning Commission has to go, the site plan has to go to the Planning Commission anyway.
I understand that. That's the next phase. But if what I'm saying is, can we modify to the wording George wants? Let's say everything but yellow has to have the cement board. And if we approve that, then when it goes back for the site plan, it's already in the PUD. Then they just have to match it up to the site plan.
The answer to that question is, I think you can do that. I also think that what George's request is, if you were to permit it, I don't think that it's necessarily inconsistent with the existing language of the PUD agreement. In other words, while it allows vinyl siding, it doesn't specify specifically where or that it shall only be vinyl siding. And if my understanding correctly is that there would be one, I think the purple would be allowed, then potentially allowed by the PUD. I don't know that you need to change it here, is I guess my point.
Yeah, so Section B talks about the material you can use, but it doesn't specifically say it gets used on yellow or blue or green. The only thing that says is lakefront will have. So I would argue that the Planning Commission can still make those restrictions on site plan approval. I mean, it doesn't say specific which one's in there. I mean, it says what they'll use.
I
mean, I understand what you're saying.
What Dave's point, Dave's original comment was correct. I would like the opportunity to have the Planning Commission revisit this and not have the developers be able to say, time out, you guys approved vinyl, we're going to use vinyl, without having Planning Commission approve this at the site plan, during the site plan process. So Hans, you tell me if this language in Exhibit G still gives us that flexibility, then I'm okay with that.
I believe it does. If you want to be sure of the fact, you can approve the PUD agreement subject to Exhibit G, subsection B, being revised to indicate that the Planning Commission shall have the opportunity to review vinyl siding as it applies to all units of the, or whatever particular parts of it. I think Mr. Mealy has some comments as well on it, though.
I do, and I appreciate the discussion. I generally like clarity and finality to things so that things are not subject to interpretation. Mr. Weber brings up some good points. We're agreeable to this in part, but what we'd like to suggest is that take Mr. Weber's idea that this portion of the PUD issue would be sent back to the site plan, but the PUD be very specific that vinyl is permitted on the yellow lots, and then the other lots will be subject to negotiation with the Planning Commission at the site plan level. But I do want some clarity that the yellow lots have this clarity to it at this point. And then we're agreeable to the balance of the suggestion.
So why are the yellow lots available to have vinyl? I thought as a township, we were looking to try to get rid of vinyl. If I recall correctly, one of the towns at Merrill Park, we said no vinyl. Cutter project, we're telling them no vinyl. Why are these yellow houses going to be allowed to have vinyl in them?
So Larry, some of the discussion during the Planning Commission is so there's two items, I would say. One is visibility and where that is visible. We're along Merrill or Martin Parkway and along the Merrill Drive. That all of those homes are going to be very visible to all the traffic in and out of the township. There's also, and we try to have lots of discussion on affordability, and we know that as you go with cement board or hardy plank, that you're increasing the costs. And I think the view on the 60-foot lots, or those that are yellow in nature, are going to be the entry level lots into this particular neighborhood, and it will not be visible really from anybody along Sleeth Road, nor visible to anybody in the Lake Sherwood area. So those are some of the give and takes on vinyl siding. So visibility and affordability are the, at least in my mind, the two issues.
What's the starting cost for a house in the yellow lot?
It would probably be in the range of about $400,000.
Is this a gated community?
It's not planned to be a gated community. If in the future the homeowners association wanted to consider that, they could petition the Planning Commission for that. Right now, it's not planned to be that.
And I thought I read somewhere that the reason why I asked is that it said public parks. Is it open to the public, or did I misread that?
It's not prohibited from the public. We don't view that the people would want to come in, and the beach would be primarily for the residents, or exclusively for the residents of this. Doesn't prevent somebody from coming in, parking, and walking through the park, although it's not designed for that. it's public parks to the people living in this community.
But the beach is private.
The beach is private, but it's available for all 203 residents here. It's not exclusive to just the people living on the lake.
Right, but not open to the public.
Correct.
And this is so close to Lake Sherwood and the other subdivisions. I'm surprised it doesn't connect. Did you talk about that or think about that?
Yeah, we did in some of the discussions early on with some of the Lake Sherwood residents, especially to the west. They didn't want it to connect because then you have traffic going through and creating more traffic in that area. It cuts down on the buffer areas. And then it just, from a design standpoint, if you can have something self-contained, but still have excellent access and safety routes to the main road, that is preferred. It's not the type of thing where we want to, generate traffic through other things. It's not where somebody needs to get through that. The only reason somebody would visit another subdivision is to cut through. We wanted to avoid that.
It's worth pointing out too, that if you look at the gravel pit property to the east of this, and then look at the neighborhoods north of that property, there is a stub road. I forget the name of it, but there is a road that stubs into the gravel pit property to the east. So potentially, if and when that property develops, and because it's stubbed into this property, then that in a meandering way would create a connection between the neighborhoods.
Yeah.
So on the planning meeting, during the planning meeting, Dave, you read some emails that you got from people that were supporting this, residents that supported it. At the beginning of this meeting, you mentioned that you had to pass some calls on to Mr. Mantha. Were those bad calls or were those positive calls? I'm just kind of interested to see if we're getting some negative calls now, where before everything was positive.
There's been a mix. So we did have a public hearing with the Planning Commission last week, Monday, and the comments that were received were mostly comments that we got ahead of time via email from residents. Some of them were supportive, as you've mentioned, Mr. Gray, of seeing this challenged property finally being brought to productive use. But there were concerns that were brought up with respect to traffic along Sleeth Road. There were concerns that were brought up, and Mr. Milia touched on this. The neighbors to the north had some questions and some concerns of what their views were going to be, looking out, from their backyards. So Mr. Milia has tried to address those with some of those cross sections that he showed you. And I'll reiterate something Mr. Milia mentioned, which he to his credit, made himself available to the neighboring property owners. I did give out his phone number and his email address to a lot of the folks who reached out to me because Mr. Milia asked that I do so. And they had an opportunity to discuss this project with the developer who was actually proposing to build it. So the correspondence that I received since the public hearing last week, Monday, I think was not necessarily positive or negative, but it was a series of questions. One resident asked whether there was going to be an augmentation well in Crystal Lake to maintain its lake level, because his concern was that if there was an augmentation well, then that was going to draw down the aquifer, and then his well was going to dry up. So I told that particular resident I didn't think there was an augmentation well, but please do call Mr. Milia and confirm with him. And my understanding is he did, and Mr. Milia confirmed that there was no augmentation well. So my point is, a lot of what the correspondence we had last week were questions, not necessarily for or against, just looking for clarification.
Okay. My other question is, reading through this, I want to just make sure I'm reading this correctly. So I am a big supporter that I think Sleeth Road needs a passing lane for people turning left and turning out of the intersection. So if I'm reading this correctly, they're going to work with the road commission. Both the road commission evaluates that they don't need a passing lane, they're not going to put one in.
The road commission makes a collective decision with the township. So what the township's traffic engineer is, their finding of the traffic study of this is that a passing lane is warranted, so that folks who are eastbound on Sleeth Road making a left turn into this neighborhood, there would be enough volume of that movement that a passing lane on the south side of Sleeth Road would be necessary. One of the questions that came up was, why not a center left turn lane instead of a passing lane? And the answer is because there's not really any sort of traffic generator on the south side of Sleeth Road. So there's really no one who is going to be making a westbound left turn. All the left turns would be eastbound traffic turning into this neighborhood. So that's why it's a passing lane instead of a center left turn lane. The Planning Commission's motion was pretty clear that the expectation is that there is a passing lane. So the only opportunity I can think of where that passing lane would go away would be if the Road Commission specifically says we are not going to require it. But in my experience, they don't typically do that. If the township is looking for it and there's a basis for that recommendation, and that basis being from our traffic engineer, then the Road Commission will partner with the township on requiring the passing lane.
Did we come up with some sort of a solution for the current residents on Sleeth Road that had an issue with where the entrance was coming in and out of, where headlights and everything are going to be right after brand new houses they have?
I think there was one particular resident who had concerns about the headlights. I don't know if that was one of the residents, Mr. Milia, that you had an opportunity to speak to directly.
I don't recall. I believe I got an email from one of them. The entrance has to go somewhere and it's going to affect somebody. In this case, where our entrance is, it affects one person coming out. As part of the landscape plan, if we want to put a couple additional trees on their property specifically to help do that, we'd be willing to consider that. But it's going to affect one person here, and it's really a minimal effect, given all the residents that live on the main road.
I disagree with you on that. Because I think you're going to have excelling, you're going to have cars excelling getting out of that subdivision. So kids, especially going to school. You mentioned the schools are going to be going that way. So it'd be nice if we could figure out something else. But anyways, okay, that's all.
Hey, Larry.
Yeah.
Larry, quick question. Have you had conversations, and it might be with Milford or the Road Commission, of the Duck Lake, Wixom, Sleeth fiasco? Because that's where I envision us, not really us per se, but that's where I envision the problems on the traffic being. So has there been conversations, and is there anything in the outlook of that?
I was actually on a call this morning. That's in the project in 2024. It's funded, it's ready to go for 2024.
Okay.
You're gonna put a roundabout up there.
There's gonna be one big roundabout right there.
All right, George.
So I will make a motion to approve PPU 20-01, including the conditions set forth by the Planning Commission and including a new condition regarding Exhibit G, where all homes on the lakefront will not have vinyl siding. Homes with lots between 105 and 83 feet not on the lake will be reviewed by the Planning Commission to determine the architectural design guidelines, and homes on lots of 60 feet or less would be allowed premium vinyl siding.
Support.
Motion, Weber, support, Burkheiser. Any other discussion? Roll call vote.
Weber,
Aye.
Burkheiser,
Aye.
Creech, aye. Phillips,
Aye.
Magner,
Sorry, I was on mute. Aye.
Sobel,
Aye.
Gray.
No.
Motion carried.
Motion carried.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, item 9, orders. I don't see we have any. Item 10, other matters.
We have orders.
Orders.
You have orders, you have the add-ons.
Oh, sorry.
Motion to approve at least the add-ons or the orders.
Support, is that a motion?
Yes.
Discussion. 2 items on the orders that, and I know you'd all be disappointed if I didn't see something on there. And if the chief, I see the chief is still on here. I saw that we paid a bill for, it was either January or December, Comcast phone system for the Welsh Road Fire Department. And my guess is that that's been disconnected for quite a long time and we shouldn't be paying for a phone bill for there. But I might be.
I can answer that for you, Jim. This is Ben.
Thank you, Ben.
So unfortunately, we are in a contract for that service. And what I was able to lower it some because we're in a contract for internet and phone services. The other issue is that canceling the service, we would lose our phone numbers for that location. So unfortunately, we were stuck with paying for the service.
Okay, and so Comcast isn't willing to negotiate anything, or you did negotiate down?
I was able to negotiate down, but not significantly, unfortunately.
Wow. Okay. Well, that's, I guess, all of my perceptions of Comcast are continue to be validated.
Yeah.
One other item I saw there, and I couldn't tell, I don't think it was a Richardson Center, and it might be something at the library, but there was a fee for Tammy's tastings. It was some kind of, looked like a cocktail class. So 1, I'm kind of interested in what it was. 2, I'm really disappointed that I wasn't invited. But does anybody know what that was?
I'm pleased to tell you that that is for an online program that has not yet occurred. You have not missed it. I will email you the invitation. It's happening in March. It's with a woman in who's in Ann Arbor and who will do a little how to make a cocktail class via Zoom.
The virtual tasting, George.
Awesome. No, I'm all in, Allison.
Sounds great.
Okay, I apologize. My book doesn't have the orders in there, so I apologize. Motion to.
I made the motion to approve.
I made the motion to approve.
Okay.
Noel, second. Burkheiser. Any other discussion?
Sure.
I had Magner.
Oh, Magner.
Oh, good.
Okay.
Roll call vote.
Sobel,
Aye.
Magner,
Aye.
Burkheiser,
Aye.
Weber,
Aye.
Phillips,
Aye.
Creech, aye. Gray,
Aye.
carried.
Okay. Item 10, other matters. Molly, would you like to go first?
I got nothing.
Okay. Ms. Creech, would you like to go?
I have nothing as well.
Okay. George Weber.
Oh, I do. On Ben's contract calendar, I noticed that the Richardson Center liquor license and the parks grass cutting contracts are all due to expire in less than 60 days. So I'm just wanted to make sure those are between Emily and I guess Emily on both of those, that those are either have already gone out for bid for the grass cutting or the liquor license is in process.
Grass cutting bids are due by 17th, and I'll have to touch base with Hans regarding the liquor license.
Okay. Other item I had was Lower Straits Lake weed control. So we keep talking about having to have the meeting with all the residents in the springtime. I'm just thinking we should get something on the calendar sooner rather than later for that.
I have proposed that meeting to take place on, I believe it's March 25th. I'm waiting for them to get back to me.
Gotcha.
And that's gonna have to be Zoom, I take it.
That's gonna have to be Zoom. Yep, so I'm waiting for it. So I've already looked at, worked with Jay's group, with Judy there, and also with Ben, that we will do the mailings for that. I'm just waiting to get confirmation on that.
Just a thought on that, and I can coordinate with you later, Larry. We might want to, if we're going to do mailings for that, we might want to include, if we can include, save a few bucks in postage, the notice of a petition being circulated to participate in it. My recollection was that the Township Board last year decided that they want a new petition for this, and that this would be an opportunity to have that petition available and maybe include the mailings at the same time.
Are you gonna come up with the wording?
Well, for the petition, not without consultation. Let's put it that way. I assure you, you will get a chance to review it. So.
Okay.
Well, and if we're gonna go through and do anything like the small, medium, large lots that we agreed to for this year, I would like building to go through and look at all the lake frontages of all the lots, because they've got people telling me that they don't think there's, and just to be sure that when we look at a plat, we can say, yes, you're 105, and yes, your neighbor is 89. So they're different sizes, because we've had a lot of people come in and ask about it. So
Was that Jay or is that Dave?
I think that's Jay.
Jay, okay. Okay.
Lucky Jay.
Next item I had was the fencing for the Benstein Cemetery and whether that that fencing has come in from Home Depot. So I don't know if that's Mark.
No, I don't even think I've told Mark yet that Home Depot called today, in fact, and said the fence arrived today. They had to unload it from the truck it came in on. They're going to store it at the store until Thursday, at which point they will load it onto a different truck to take it to our sewer treatment plant, where it will be stored in a garage until whenever Mark is able to show off his fence installation skills.
Awesome. And then the last item I had is just a comment that in viewing what's happening in a lot of the other municipalities in the state and surrounding areas, our fiscal policy is working. You know, the townships and the cities that are in trouble, that are begging for more money from the state and or the federal government, or those that don't manage their townships within their property tax base, that they not only utilize those funds, but they also rely heavily on other state and or federal funds to fund personnel and everything else. So just an observation that we're doing things right. We're not in trouble and other places are.
SADs work really well.
Hey, George?
That's it.
Vanessa?
Just a couple of quick things. I wanted to mention, it was on my mind anyway to talk about the ice situation. And when the gentleman jumped on earlier about, you know, his son had passed from Wolverine Lake. And it just made me wonder if we had like warnings, kind of like at a beach, you know, you have like kind of like the color codes of whether or not it's safe to swim at. Do we have anything like that, or what's the next step?
We don't.
Not our responsibility. I mean, is that our responsibility?
Well, just,
I mean,
just thinking
whether you want to agree, I get that.
education wise.
I mean, I don't know if the state has something for the access at some of those.
On Lake Sherwood, they publish a map every year that shows where the weak spots are on the lake. It goes out on the website, it comes out in the newsletter, and it highlights every single place on the lake where it never freezes. It might look solid, but it never freezes solid either because there's a bridge or there's water flowing in from the street drains or whatever, and it's published every year. And I guess I don't understand if it's as a township, our responsibility to go around and map that and mail those out to the people who live on the lake. And especially considering the gentleman who died on Wolverine Lake didn't live there. I mean, he was from someplace else. So I guess smart.
I don't think we're going to save everyone. It's just kind of an educational point. Just two, and within a couple of days was a little scary. And then I you know, the day after, I still see people out there, and it's just,
Well, maybe
shake me up a little.
maybe to your point, Vanessa, and maybe with Chief, maybe it's something, maybe not for this year, but maybe it is for next year, that at the start of winter, that we actually have something on the township website that speaks to it. Not that speaks to the mapping of individual lakes, but basically to the point that, you know, no ice is safe ice. And there are certain things to look for, you know, especially after it snows. That's a huge problem. It creates an insulation, and if there is any heat from weeds or muck underneath that, it's gonna be bad ice.
Yeah.
But I just think no ice is safe ice, and just continuing that message, particularly if you don't live on the lake, that's just
Right.
Not good.
Yeah, I think the fire department either put something out or somebody from the fire department put out like a Facebook post that said within a certain amount of inches, you can do this, and a certain amount of inches, you can do that. And I had never seen that before. And so even that was educational to me, just to get that out in the masses. But I'm sure you're going to work on that, or you'll have some ideas, Chief.
So I did appreciate Mr. Tiptula calling today. That was a pretty tragic event in his life with his son dying, and he has some ideas about educating people about wearing an inflatable vest, which I think probably would have helped his son had he had one on there. He was you know, he sank like a stone because he got waterlogged almost immediately. He was in a deep part of the lake. The firefighters can reach down to just a little over 12 feet with the equipment that we have. The sheriff's dive team was there as quick as they could, but the young man was submerged underwater almost an hour, which made, you know, a tragic situation for us. So he's dedicating himself to trying to educate people about it, and my meeting with him on Friday is going to be basically trying to help him get that message out.
Good. And then my other item, and I don't know if this is something we need to talk to Merge Live about, but there's, and not necessarily in this meeting, but in past meetings, there's been numbers that I don't know, and I feel like it's public comments, and then they just don't hang up, that are staying on. And I don't know if anyone else has noticed that, but it would be nice to know that the people that are on the call are the ones that are supposed to be on the call, and that we don't ever have to worry about, you know, the Zoom, what are they called? The people that start yelling and doing stuff during Zoom meeting.
Bombing.
Zoom bombing, thank you, Zoom bombing. So anyways, I just wanted to see if anyone had any thoughts on that, or if maybe, you know, we can talk to Merge Live about maybe a protocol moving forward.
Well, I'll take
Well, I
first stab
know
at it.
I can tell you.
I'll
I was going
take
to say
first
we
stab
had
at
an
it.
issue at. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, Dave, go first.
I get to go first because I was the victim of several Zoom bombings with the Planning Commission, so that's why I get to go first.
Okay.
So per the Open Meetings Act, we have to let people listen to the meeting over the phone. So the YouTube option that we have is something of a luxury. We're not necessarily required to provide that. So those are the folks that you see as participants in the Zoom meeting where you just see the phone number. Those are people that are just listening. And my understanding is that they are only unmuted when they press the, I can't remember if it's the *6 or the *9, and that tells whoever's running our meeting, in this case, Jacob, to unmute them. Otherwise, they should be muted throughout the entire meeting, other than when they're specifically unmuted for public comment. But otherwise, yes, they are listening to our meeting over the phone, which we're required to provide per state law.
So they can unmute themselves is what you're saying.
That's not my understanding. My understanding is they can request to be unmuted, but only Jacob as the moderator can actually unmute them. And now I see
My
Jacob
main concern is just, yeah, okay.
So we did have an issue at Parks, I want to say 2 meetings ago, where someone made a comment, but then left their phone line open, and we had and they were having a conversation, and some poor, I don't know what she was, 14-year-old girl was presenting, and there were questions being asked, and she thought it was to her. It was a big issue because the lines were left open, and people were talking in the room, and it was a problem. And so we did have a conversation with Merge Live that somebody needs to jump in there and turn them off, and I think that's been fixed. We've had no trouble since then. But we did have trouble a couple weeks, whatever that was, a month or two ago.
I think it was just your last Parks meeting, and because I was watching,
okay,
and it was a disaster. And I immediately emailed Ken, and so did Emily. And yeah, he seemed to address the issues at that point. And so I think moving forward, things have gotten better, or won't ever be that bad again.
Okay, I'm just looking.
My understanding was
preventing it from happening here, I guess. So.
We just have to keep on top of when the phone lines are there that they get closed off, because sometimes they push their star, I don't know what it is, star 6, right. and then they would have to push star 6 again to shut themselves off. And I think it's just better that when they're done talking that our moderator cuts them off, and then we should be good.
Okay.
Anything else, Vanessa?
Nope, that's all. Thank you.
Bob, how about you?
So I was looking at the contracts too, and I'm asking about the snow plow contract because it expires in October. I don't know who does that, but it expires in October, which means it just seems like it's a short window to maybe get something approved for winter next year. And so I guess if we can move it up just to start looking at rebidding or whatever it is. And then the only other thing I had was there was a big discussion at Parks and I think at Library about the music box. And I think we are working, Allison and Emily and whatnot, of putting the music box in the library so people can get a chance to see it. But the big issue is we want to make sure it's secure and safe from grubby fingers and things like that. So there was a conversation there. I'm not sure if that was brought up to the board before. I think I mentioned it at one of her sessions. So
it's very safe.
That's it, Larry. Thank you.
Yeah, and
I'll bet it is.
And Bob, one of the goals with Mark and his team is hopefully to be able to do that snow plowing. Not saying that we won't need a contract, but he would like to be able to plow those spots that we have contracted out now.
Yeah, but the contract I'm talking about is the SAD. So no offense, it's my street. So unless he's coming to my street, that'd be great. And if he's going to do that, come on up in my driveway too, buddy.
All right, thanks.
So no, it's the SAD ones that cover a good portion of the township. We merged all those together.
Okay.
We'll take a look at that because I thought
unless they'll extend it, maybe they'll extend it.
I thought we tried to get them all to end at the same time. So I'll take a look at that in the next couple of days, and if it's June fall, we'll get it going so we can get a bid out there.
So the ones I have all end October 31st. So we'll get working on that. Rick?
I'll pull them out tomorrow morning.
I've only got 11 items. The first one is on White Lake. What was the outcome on Cascade?
So Rick, the supervisor up there, talked to the manager, Josh, or superintendent, Josh, for the road commission who oversees the Milford Garage. So we are looking to see if they can make that a maintenance project. They could possibly save us some money. They did vote yes to approve it. They are looking at either taking whatever portion that is, whatever it comes out to be, out of a road fund that they have, or use their tri-fund money. Originally, I was told they couldn't use their tri-fund money, but now they're being told they can use the tri-fund money to do this project. So right now, it's up and hold. We're going to wait and see what the cost is. I've been told as well that if we do move forward, that we need to create all the paperwork for this project, which was not sure previously. So it's kind of up in the air where we're at. So I hope that answers your question.
Okay, because I wasn't sure if they were were allowed to spend $5,000 of White Lake tax money to give to Commerce Township or not. So
yeah, that's been confirmed. They can.
Yeah, the other one is I'd like to also make a motion to authorize to spend up to $7,500 to hire Don at UFS UFS, right? Utilities, have UFS to do a water study. I'll do two different motions to do the water, do the water study, and do it soon, like not as soon as possible.
The sewer or the water? Or
Well,
both?
I'm gonna do one of each. So she can do the same. I want to do the, yeah, I just want to make two separate motions.
Okay, support.
Motion Sobel, support Magner, discussion.
So when is there no schedule for Dawn to do that right now?
No, she does not have a schedule to do it. I was talking to Molly and we wanted to get it done before your budget season. So that's why I was going to bring it next month.
Well, I'm trying to, yeah, so I'm trying to advance it because of the List Act program. So that's, but might as well do them both at the same time.
Any other discussion? Roll
Is
call.
she going to give us a deal for doing both?
Never does.
Any
For
other
less
discussion?
money than they were last time, weren't they? Wasn't one 10,000 and the other one was something?
Yeah, but it's only been a year, so it probably don't have as much work to do. My guess.
I disagree.
Okay.
It's only a year between audits and they still have to look at everything.
It's like Comcast, it's a monopoly.
Any other discussion? Roll call vote.
Sobel,
Aye.
Magner,
Aye.
Creech, aye. Phillips,
Aye.
Weber,
Aye.
Burkheiser,
Aye.
Gray.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Motion to request Don from UFS to do a water,
Sewer.
wastewater sewer study to include the information with the List Tech program.
Support.
Money to come from the Water and Sewer Fund. Sorry.
Motion Sobel, support Magner, discussion. Roll call vote.
Sobel,
Aye.
Magner,
Aye.
Burkheiser,
Aye.
Weber,
Aye.
Phillips,
Aye.
Creech, aye. Gray.
Aye.
Motion carried.
That's it. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, got everybody. So on the last one, just a couple things. Just so you guys know, I'm working with Ben to get a quote to get access cards, one access card system for all our buildings to include the fire stations and the maintenance department. So the access cards would be the same for library, Township Hall, Richardson Center, all the stations, maintenance hall. So we have one system for everything. So we don't have multiple systems for multiple buildings. So look for that in the future. And just for, we still are working on the 8585 building. We had another meeting to discuss the wants and the needs. And we're moving forward on that. Hopefully we will be have a little bit more information for you next meeting as we're going to try to go see some substations and get some further questions answered. I did meet with the owner of the Pacific Gun in there yesterday. Real nice guy. He was concerned about when he needed to be out. So I mentioned to him that we probably really wouldn't start anything probably for about 6 months, and he has a year and a half left on his lease. That's really about it. So if
Did the other guy leave?
not yet.
Since you sent the letter?
He did not leave, and I have not received any correspondence from my letter I sent him. So with the mail the way it is, maybe he hadn't got there yet. I don't know, maybe he's not going to reply, but if I don't hear something by that due date, I will talk with Hans and see what we need to do.
Tape it to the door.
What's that?
Tape it to the door.
There you go. All right, that's all I have. Does anybody else have anything? If not, can I get a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Wagner, support?
Support.
Okay. Roll call vote?
Magner,
Aye.
Creech, aye. Phillips,
Aye.
Weber,
Aye.
Burkheiser,
Aye.
Sobel,
Aye.
Gray,
Aye.
motion carried.
Nice seeing you, Phil.